Oh, legend, local legend.
I actually had somebody at a gas station before I got here give me a little bit about him and his family, and it was all great things. I can't wait to have him on. Moose Miller coming on as well. He's going to be one of our
Moose.
I love it. I love Moose. Yeah. I always felt like that was such a great nickname for all the kids to have. Anyways, he's going to be one of our musical guests for our upcoming charity event as well. He's absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't checked him out, you really should, especially being a local guy, having a Nashville deal and things like that. I'm telling you, he's definitely worth a listen. But as we get started today, we got a lot of great things to talk about, honestly speaking. And
yeah, one of the first things that we're going to talk about is just about how commercials just aren't what they used to be, especially Super Bowl commercials. You know, like I feel like now that like the saving grace is like you don't really see the same commercial twice. Is really the only thing that's kind of saving the Super Bowl commercials for me because I feel like they've just all been kind of lackluster.
I like that they put in an almost like side topics and, you know, some maybe some things you wouldn't normally look at, some ads you wouldn't normally see because it's usually catered to you. But, like, you know, where's the Doritos commercials that are absolutely elite? Where's the, you know, the old beer commercials that were setting up for that next year?
That's the thing. The Clydesdale commercials, which are usually Budweiser commercials, I say Clay and Trevor were talking about how, like, they didn't see it and then had to go back and watch it on YouTube. And then when we watched, like, the top 10 Super Bowl commercials from that, it's just there's, like, 2 or 3 of them that were, like, real funny. But other than that, it was just kind of lackluster. But
did you feel like there was a couple of them, you, like, when it ended, you were like, what did I even just watch? Like, nothing against the foot washing thing. Everyone's religious. But I feel like you could give us a little more context before you go into washing a bunch of feet. Yeah. Like, I get what they were going for, and it made a lot of sense. I like your values. But I was just kind of sitting there a little lost through some of them.
Now, what was your favorite commercial that happened?
I can't really think of one, to be honest. Nothing really jumped out at me.
I liked a few of them. Like I liked obviously one of my favorites is probably going to be the Deadpool 3 trailer, just because I was super ready for that. But I ended up missing it because it happened early on, and I just waited the entire Super Bowl for that one commercial to find out that it got released 3 hours ago at the start.
Yeah. I did end up catching that. I thought it was funny. I think Hugh Jackman had a couple funny things to say about it on Twitter. So I know a lot of celebrities were having fun with it too. And it's one of those things, like when you make a superhero like that, it's going to be a funny movie. It's almost like a Ted or Family Guy or something like that. Like you just know there's no way that it's no hold bar.
Yeah. So something else to like kind of talk about transition funny wise. The superior way to watch the Super Bowl is the Nickelodeon simulcast.
Winner takes all, bud.
Yeah, I say Patrick and SpongeBob on there just killed it. I mean, just hearing Patrick yell, firmly grasp.
He's talking about Christian McCaffrey's fumble. If you were watching on the Nickelodeon cast, Patrick Starr had a couple nice words about Christian McCaffrey fumbling the ball, saying firm grasp.
And then you have Dora the Explorer. You have Dora the Explorer coming up talking about maybe I need to give him a map to find where the end zone is, and then just disappearing. Yeah.
And I mean, when you hit it for the parents too, not even the parents will say anybody our age, but the winner takes all, the opening, like they knew exactly what they were doing.
See, I prefer that. I wanted that to be the halftime show.
Yeah,
like that's the greatest halftime show of all time. They missed the mark like right after COVID hit, and they had like the COVID Super Bowl, like the first one after. They could have did like a Bubble Bowl theme. And it would have killed. It would have been the best halftime
No, I didn't watch the whole broad. I wonder if did they bring in Squilliam?
I don't know. See,
Squilliam Fancy Pants, I think, was the reason that they had to impress at that Bubble Dome.
I only found out about how awesome the Nickelodeon cast was afterwards because I didn't watch it with Clay and Trevor, but I came back, and when I did, they were talking about it. I was like, man, I went back and watched a couple of the calls. It's like, I missed out by not watching the Nickelodeon cast. Now, how do you feel about Kelce and Reid?
So I'm going to be open and honest about this. I feel like that if it was a different player, there'd be different results from it. And the thing was, even Andy Reid, I want people to realize, when Andy Reid says that he lost his balance and that's why it looked worse than it was, Andy Reid was a Philadelphia coach for over 12 years. The entire time, if McNabb was throwing worm burners, it was his fault. We're like, no, your play was just fine. He threw the ball into the dirt. It's his fault. Andy he is known as that coach that will take a fall for any of his players. So when he sits there and said he got a little off balance, yeah, but he's also a little bit of an old man. So when you're coming at him as big as you are, as Travis Kelce, of course he's going to be a little off balance. And I feel like if that was a different player, I'm not saying they'd get suspended, but I'm saying I think they might have a label on him that he doesn't have.
No, I will say I'm pretty sure in the notes here, Clay just has be who you can afford to be. So I'm assuming that means like if it's anybody else but Travis Kelce, they're probably not making it to the end of that Super Bowl. You know what I mean? But like Kelce can afford to be that, I guess, charismatic or that into a game that showing that much emotion and kind of get away with it. But they got the dub. If they would have lost, we'd be seeing probably a different tune here, and he'd probably be painted to be the bad guy. Taylor probably would be leaving him right now for pushing an old man.
She didn't look too. His post game speech was pretty weak too, if you ask me. It's like, dude, if you want to cut a WWE promo, like at least get your ducks in a row before you do it, because it was just weak. And you looked at her, and I looked at her to be like smiling with that look, like, oh my funny da 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 da. She kind of looked at him like.
I didn't watch the post game show. As soon as it was over, I was like, you know what? I had the Niners in this one. I'm disappointed. I'm going to bed. But
I still think if that's even like Rashid Rice, if that dude comes up and does that to him, I want to think of somebody maybe even more established in the league, but a Devontae Adams. Like I feel like if that happens, Devontae Adams then gets that label that he's not a locker room cancer, but he's a loose cannon and da 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 da. And everybody's like, well, people kind of think Travis is that. But you're not a locker room cancer. That's not going to affect your salary. I just think it's a little different for a lot of guys in the league.
Well, looking at that, honestly, I feel like, the media would have painted Mahomes in a bad light, had it been him doing it.
Dude, you can't touch a coach.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of players ever touching a coach? He did. And when you walk up to somebody and you grab the back of their arm, that's like asserting dominance. First thing he did, he rolls up, grabs the back of that bicep of Andy Reid, like, I want to talk to you. And to me, that's unacceptable, especially in a Super Bowl. And then comes out and calls a perfect game, by the way. Andy, I wish you were still the Eagles coach, I'll tell you that, because, dude, I know he has Pat Mahomes, but you can't tell me that play to get that game-winning touchdown was written in the dirt 6 weeks ago for him. He's it.
Okay, now, what was your favorite moment from the Super Bowl? Because me personally, I had a hard time picking out a favorite moment just because to me it was kind of lackluster.
First thing I want to say is the ending.
Yeah,
it's like I'm just over it.
I was not wanting a second overtime period. I was not wanting a quarter two in OT.
If you're gonna make me watch two teams I could care less about, at least you gave me overtime. Like I was like, hey, at least you gave me a little something. Like, but I could care truly the whole time. Like the Chiefs just beat us, so why should I like that?
Well, the guy I was watching with, he fell asleep on the game-winning play. Like that's how lackluster it was. Like the big plays, they weren't even exciting plays.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, he was trying to the guy I was watching it with said I like these defensive battles. It's like it's not so much a defensive battle because there's 10 field goals happening. That means the offenses are just kind of fizzing out there towards the end. And you had three field goals over 50 yards. So I mean, I guess the field goals were probably like the record-breaking field goals were my favorite. How the kickers were going back and forth.
They had a thing who was going to influence the game most, and Jake Moody was one of them. And I was like, oh man, why is he on there? And I thought about it. I was like, Adam Vinatieri has 2 Super Bowl game-winning field goals. It really can come down to a kicker.
So I mean, that's I guess the special team play was probably my favorite, or I guess some of my favorite things that happened was just the special team play. Big block PAT. I don't really think it decided the game, but it definitely changed how the pace of the game was played and the strategy both teams kind of employed there at the end.
How many times during a football game do you add up if they have 3 or 6 or 7 or if they got the 8 or if they're within this? That 1 point always makes a difference in decision making. Yeah. Like 100%. That 2 to 3, that 3 to 4 is just 2 different worlds.
See, my opinion, one of my hot takes, I guess, so far in this Super Bowl was that if Moody had made that, the 49ers would have lost in regulation.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't have been a tie ball game. I think they would have lost in regulation had Moody made that field goal. So it's a good thing he didn't make the PAT, I guess, because we got OT, we got the second OT. Kyle Shanahan became the only coach to ever lose 2 times in each overtime. He's the only coach to lose in overtime in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
He's done it twice.
Yeah.
He's 0-2 in OT games in the Super Bowl.
And it's against the same team too, man. You got to sit there and start getting pretty pissed off about that.
No, the first time it was against the Tom Brady Patriots. He was the Atlanta Falcons, so he has the biggest. I
was thinking that the Chiefs just beat the Niners a couple years ago.
Right? They did beat them a couple years ago, but yeah, the first one was when Brady came back down 27-3, the biggest deficit to ever come back from. So Kyle Shanahan has given up the biggest lead.
I did see a
Super
bunch
Bowl
of those
history en route to his first loss in Super Bowl OT.
It's rough. And what's fun, I thought it was somebody commented on how much Brady was in the commercials, and I was like, that's just him kind of giving an F you to Giselle. He's like, I might not be playing.
Now, my absolute favorite favorite commercial was the Dunkin' Donuts commercial with Ben Affleck. You had Matt Damon's in there, Jack Harlow, J-Lo. My favorite. You actually had – so it's a play on a SNL skit with his brother Casey Affleck. So he was the mayor of Dunkin'. So I don't know. I just love it because they went super Boston for it. Bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
But favorite moment, I'll say the halftime show. And the only reason why is, again, I hated both teams, and I know that's not part of the actual football game, but it was fun. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I like really made me go crazy, but seeing Little John, seeing Usher out there, I had somebody at work literally go, why was Usher sweating so bad? I said, I want you to walk around in a circle for 3 minutes while singing a song, and I'm going to watch you sweat. This dude was breaking it down on roller skates, and you're going to tell me he shouldn't be sweating?
The funniest thing Clay said about that was that he was just on the 50 or on the field for the longest time. He's like, have they not got a stage ready yet? What's going on?
Yeah.
So,
Really good impression.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, the whole sweat thing, the whole sweat gate thing, as they were calling it, I'm like, dude, look at what he's doing.
He was dancing the whole time. He wasn't even really singing.
It's like footwork, all that stuff.
I felt they could have got somebody more culturally relevant in today's age.
If you're Swizz Beats, which is Alicia Keys' husband, how you feel about that on stage, rub-a-dubbing?
I don't know. I'll never take my girl to a concert because that's all it is, dude.
But
I think Keke Palmer got in trouble for something like that with her man. So,
all that being said, it was a good one. I had a good time watching it for, again, having absolutely no dog in any of those fights.
Yeah, I really could not care less about.
Is that thunder? Is that lightning?
I'm here, baby!
Let's go! I'm fucking here!
I'm not fucking leaving!
I'm here, baby.
Kona.
Listen, Coney,
Sweet baby
I love
dog.
you.
Get outta
Sweet
here.
baby angel, get out of here. Listen. This is a PSA announcement to Circleville. Why did you put a train track around your entire freaking city? That is the dumbest thing I've ever experienced in my entire freaking life.
The reason he's out of breath is because his car's still in Circleville at the train tracks. He got out and ran, people.
I would have been here on time if that city was not surrounded by a freaking train track.
Yeah. No, when I worked in Circleville, hated it.
Oh, my God.
Not even just a train track. Nobody can drive up there.
Jeez Louise, yeah. Would have been here on time. Literally got trapped in a circle of train tracks. I'm going to take a minute to catch my breath. Be who you can afford to be
Yeah, I didn't know what you meant by that. So I
with
wanted
Travis
to ask.
Kelce. So what I'm saying is be who you can afford to be, all right? Somebody that never does out of character, out of line stuff like Travis Kelce always does. Always doing stuff, high emotion, high energy. Probably,
intensity.
yes, way over the line. Andy Reid's probably like, yeah, I don't think he really meant
That's
to.
just Travis.
Just like Pat McAfee. Do we love that? No. Is it real? 1,000,000%. So like that's.
Do you feel like if it was a different player, would it have been a different response?
From yes, no, 100. That's what I'm saying. If it's the left guard.
But I don't mean left guard. I even mean.
Well, I'm just using like backup left guard. Like,
but we'll talk about elite players. If that's Devontae Adams, OBJ, or even Pat Mahomes.
well, AJ Brown said, if that's me, I'm out of the league.
That-
Well, AJ, look at your track record.
That's him though. But take like a lesser value of that, like like a Justin Jefferson. Like I feel like if Justin Jefferson does that, even though he's one of the best receivers in the league, they're gonna say, "Oh, he's got a temper. He's got this. He's got that." Like,
But
I mean, they're
does
already kinda
Justin
doing it to
Jefferson ever do
Stefon
things
Diggs.
like that, anyways? You know what I mean? Like
but
Travis.
does that make it right?
I'm not here to say
Yeah.
right or wrong.
Well, so this is my thing. Is
But if you did that all the time and you were an African American, do you feel like it's the same thing?
Well, so Stefon Diggs is the biggest reason that I'm talking like that. He has been dubbed a problem in the locker room.
What a good
for
example.
just being just because he wants to win. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's sick and tired of not making it to the
But
Super
I
Bowl.
think what you are saying, the coach plays just as important a factor, because I'm telling you right now, if that's Coach Shue, you are off the team. With Andy Reid, this is not against Coach
Did you hear
Shue.
me say it?
Yes.
10 years of him
Yes.
doing that I watched.
Exactly. With Andy Reid, I feel like he just understands his players more than other coaches would.
And maybe if that wasn't him, he wouldn't have even have done it. because
Exactly.
Fair enough. Still
Now-
get to it, punk.
There is somebody that probably has a good idea. Got to actually play against Andy Reid. Was actually the 68th pick in the 2003 draft.
tight end.
2004 NFL draft. Was a 2002 national title. RV enthusiast and Chillicothe legend, Ben Hartsock.
Let's go.
Ben, my man, how are you today on this Super Bowl Monday?
Fellas, I mean it's a dark day, but we're college football, NFL football. The clock is counted down. We'll get there soon enough.
Yeah, again, the long off season is here. I'm already sad that it's here. I feel like it came and went so fast. Ben, we're kind of talking about the Super Bowl. We got a little wrapped up in the Travis Kelce stuff. What was kind of your takeaway from the Super Bowl last night?
I mean, it was there were so many threads. I don't know if the ratings have come out, but I work with the guys that call games for ESPN and CBS and different. They eat up the ratings. I expect it to have been a new record. The Patriots back the meltdown of the Falcons was the previous record because. But and obviously the Taylor Swift bump is going to be big,
Right.
I expect. But aside from that, you've got a game that's down to a pick 'em, like it's just a coin flip of a game. You've got Mr. Irrelevant and the Brock Purdy, David versus Goliath thread. You've got Patrick Mahomes cementing himself as a dynasty, making himself a GOAT, and he's not even 30.
Right.
And so there were so many threads, and ultimately, my big takeaway is it delivered. It was a great game.
Overtime game.
First
down to the last
half
play.
defensive domination. Second half, Patrick Mahomes comes to life, and that the offenses get big, and the stars do the things that make them the great players that they are. Halftime was awesome with Usher. The commercials, like it was ultimately.
That was like prime your
year
era
over
too,
year,
Usher,
sometimes-
right? I'm sure you were bumping that on the way to Union High School every morning.
I was crushing the clubs back in the day.
So was I.
Yeah,
That was
man.
making me feel my age around these guys.
I want to ask you something that me and my buddy, we call him T-Bag, we were watching the game last night, and I thought it was really interesting. At the end of the overtime, Reid did not call a timeout. He was letting that clock run down, and then to call a pass play, to me, he said, we're winning or we are losing on this play. Was that kind of your takeaway, or how did you kind of see that last play or that last drive kind of go for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the guys on the broadcast did a good job of it's an option for you get Mahomes out on the edge, and he's either going to throw it or he's going to run it. Like it's going to be in his hands. It's kind of like sort of what happened in the Seattle season, and instead it's a slant for interception that everybody in the building today, where there's so much decisions that happen in the flow of a play, the zone read, which that happens where a quarterback is deciding while the play is developing whether I'm going to run it here or I'm going to run it there, if I'm going to throw it or I'm going to run it. That back in my day, it was different. Where the Jets teams that I was a part of, those were really good teams, AFC Championship teams. Everybody in the building knew if it got down to third or fourth and short, and we needed 3 yards, we're going to run off tackle. We're going to hand the ball off to LaDainian Tomlinson. Everybody in the building and everybody on the planet knew it, and it came down to execution. More option-oriented, where it's A, B, or C based on what happens as the play develops. That all happens in real time. But at the end of the day, the one denominator for the Chiefs is the guy. Like I said, the guy is cementing himself as a legend status and young man.
I just want to say real quick, I love how he just threw LaDainian Tomlinson's name in there, just laissez-faire. This guy, LaDainian Tomlinson, he's just handed off to.
And I love too,
guys.
how,
But I tell myself though, what's kind of wild now is the guys that I played with are going into the Hall of Fame, and it's that's the last salute to guys like Dwight Freeney, who's going in this year.
Yes, sir.
I
I was
played
pumped
with.
about
I was
that.
saying one of
and
my
Andre-
big childhood guys.
Julius Peppers, I played against. That guy haunts my dreams, and there are these guys that were a part of my life now going into the Hall of Fame, where it's kind of the last salute, because once you're enshrined, you're there forever, but your relevance is continuing to wane. But for me, Dwight, it's especially contrasted with Julius Peppers and Dwight Freeney going in in the same class that those guys were both spectacular. Dwight Freeney, though, was the guy, when I get asked this question a lot of who's the most nightmare person that you ever had to go against, that guy every day and twice on Sundays. I would rather face Julius Peppers 100 times to Dwight Freeney, which is kind of surprising because
Julius
if you had those two in a lineup and you said which of these guys is more talented, you'd say Julius Peppers. The guy played on the North Carolina basketball team.
Yeah.
The guy was but see, the difference is Dwight Freeney came into the NFL as an ugly duckling. Now he was a first-round draft pick, but he came too short, not long enough arms, didn't have a bunch of. Whereas Julius Peppers was all everything. He was, if you were going to create a player, he's the guy you would create. But Dwight Freeney, because of that chip on his shoulder, he played like his hair was on fire. If you look up YouTube clips of his spin move, it was the stuff of absolute legend. And the thing with Dwight is he never let up, whether it was his play to make it or it was backside and he just had to pursue. He gave lights out effort day in, day out, play in, play out. Julius Peppers, when he wanted to be, you couldn't stop him. There was nothing you could do. But when Julius knew the play was going away or he wasn't going to be in the mix, he'd kind of shut it down.
Right.
And so I always said, like, I would rather play, and I hated to play against, but the Freeney was a teammate of mine too. I would rather have guys like that as opposed to a guy that it turns it on and turns it off.
Because at least with Peppers, yeah, these plays are going to be hard, but I know there's going to be a break in here somewhere. You know what I mean? If it's going the other way.
Yeah.
And I want to back up a little bit here because you started saying, hey, when you start going to the Hall of Fame and everything, well, let's not overlook you are in that Hall of Fame as well, if I'm not mistaken, or not Hall of Fame, but also one of the top tight ends in Ohio State history. When that news came out, man, what was that like? I mean, you lived a great career under a great coach, the sweater vest, Jim Tressel. You win one of the biggest national championships ever. I mean, that's like when I first started watching football. How was that like for you to read and see that news?
Well, I'm not necessarily. I think this is an unofficial category. This was maybe an honor that I was received. Maybe I think you and my mom maybe clicked on that article. I think it was an 11 Warriors article maybe or something along those lines.
That's where I read it was 11.
Yeah,
Warriors.
I mean, here's the thing. In my professional life now as a broadcaster, I focus on the college game, and so college is and I did that purposefully because college was a special and near and dear to my heart experience that I'm thankful for my NFL experience, but I was a player that was always on the bottom half of a roster, always wondering whether or not I was going to make the roster that season, and a bubble player. I was a journeyman. Like, that's why I played for 5 different teams. And the more you live that business life of the NFL, especially as a bottom half guy, it kind of sucks the joy out of it. And so college is just the opposite. You're there for 4 years. You're there with these guys, at least in my era. Yeah. And you have this period. It's chapters of history. And so that my chapter of Ohio State history, I am incredibly thankful for. We team that finally turned the tide and the balance of power for Ohio State, Michigan on the run that lasted up until what we're dealing with right now. But he drew that line in the sand and tipped the scales back for Ohio State again and went on a 20 whatever. Like those stories are they're forever. And the further I get from them, the sweeter those memories are, because there's something magic about that time, whether you're going to work after high school or going to the military or going to college, you're figuring out life.
Yes.
And to go through it in a way, like, especially with you guys being back in Ohio, that we all went through those experiences together. Like, I still have them up and talk about that national championship game and the double overtime. And it was a shared experience that we had together that meant a tremendous amount to me.
I was here moment.
A question I wanted to ask, because I heard you say back in my time, we'd stick together for 4 years. So what's your take on this new transfer portal kind of era?
Oh, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. I'm totally
I feel like it's taking college out of college football.
It is.
I feel like college to me was always like
It was the most purest form of any sport you could have.
Agreed. That's
Like,
about the best
So
way I
that
can
being
describe
said, the
it.
transfer portal does suck. But how do you feel about paying players in NIL?
I don't like any of it.
Okay.
I don't like any of it. And I'm going to sound like an old guy being grumpy, but here I said about
Can we say
the
semi-old
college game.
just so I feel better?
Well, semi-old. Yeah, I'm in my 40s. You don't look like you're 40. I'm in my
getting to
40s. I'm 43 years
mid-30s,
old. So the college game, it's the exploitation of players is maybe 150 guys each year.
Yeah.
But for the overwhelming majority, when you and so when I say that, I'm talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. and Bryce Young and Caleb Williams. Like, yeah, I get it. In the college model, classically, they have true value. But for the overwhelming majority of college football players, the value of their scholarship is worth more than what they provide to the team.
Yeah.
And so we have completely upended the college ecosystem to right this wrong for these 150, 200 players, it's called 1,000 players in college football every year, to the detriment of everybody else. Because what's going to happen, we're already seeing it. Kyle McCord, he got cut.
Yeah.
The current the guy Will Howard, who's coming to Ohio State this year, he got cut. So the reality I lived in the NFL of bouncing around from team to team to team, that's now going to happen at the college level. And it's in a lot of ways, my opinions are kind of like lines in the sand, like that we've just kind of decided as a society. You're 16 when you drive, you're 18 when you vote, you're 21 when you drink. That we've driven, even though growing up on a farm over on State Route 104, I could have driven a car at 14, but society said not yet.
Yeah.
And in college football was through its entire history was kind of like an apprenticeship, kind of like a medical resident. Like, you go to medical school, you go to undergrad, you go to medical school, and then there's a period called a residency where you're doing big time surgeries, you're doing heart surgeries, you're suturing and doing all the things that a doctor does, but you're not yet a full-blown doctor. And it's an apprenticeship so that you learn how to be the best doctor before you have the burden of malpractice insurance and lawyers and all the things that go across with that. That's what college athletics was. That's what college football was. It's big time football without the burden of business, without the burden
That is the
of
best
I
of
literally
cuts
cannot.
That's like the best.
Yeah.
That's the best like comparison that I've
And
ever.
it goes back to what
just
you said
really well
earlier, where
said.
you're like, hey, when I was in college, like I was still growing up, I was still trying to figure out who I'm going to be, and you had the thing of I'm with these guys for the next 4 years, and then it's more than I'm going to go out and play with these guys. It's I have these kind of brothers to lean on, and
camaraderie, like a
and
family.
stuff like, hey, I'm not sure, but I have
when
somebody
you
to talk
say
to.
the words "he got cut,"
Yeah.
those words are never used in an article because he technically wasn't.
yeah, it
but
says
that
they
is
gets
such
transferred.
a perfect,
Yeah.
perfect.
Oh, it
term
is.
to
Yeah,
use.
nobody's going to admit it because they want to hide behind this facade of it's still college and it's a developmental. No, it's a transactional institution.
100%.
Yeah.
You're only, and a guy like me, I redshirted my freshman year. I was in no way, shape, or form ready to be playing college football my first year. What the world today, I probably get pushed off of that roster.
Yeah.
And I'm then pushed into the portal. That's how it happens. And
Yeah.
then you're trying to figure out, do I try
'Cause-
to get into a MAC school or do I try to get into somewhere else?
You're reading about like the guys that are openly wanting to transfer, but you're not really reading about the guys like you just said. Like, well, now
McCord
this
is
guy just
forced
came in.
to do a
I'm
transfer.
forced to go somewhere else because
Well, you look at it,
Yeah.
Devin Smith. He thinks he's next up, and then
Yeah.
now they're getting a Will Howard. I think his name, the guy from K-State, whatever.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Guys,
Will
they're
Howard.
bringing in Will Howard. It's you sit there and what is he looking at? He's like, man, I put my time in. I was here at
Right.
the university long enough. This was my turn.
Right. Now, again, we're talking to you. You're a college football national champion, and I want to talk about that national championship game. I mean, I've watched 30 for 30s as much as I can. I've watched as many documentaries, but I've never talked to someone that was in the damn game. So here we are.
Yeah.
I want to ask, first off, you guys are leading up to that game, right? And Miami is kind of started to come back, but also I feel like they were kind of on the end of their dynasty that they had going on. And I feel like, again, a lot of people didn't even give you guys a lot of credit. I feel like what I was reading is that maybe people thought you were even going to get blown out. So first question I have is like, what was that week like leading up to just even the kickoff of, okay, yeah, nobody thinks we're going to win. We're playing the dynasty Miami. Let's go out there and show them what's up or what's up. What was that week like?
Oh yeah, we were giant underdogs. We were 13, almost 14-point underdogs in that game. And Miami was a juggernaut. They had gone undefeated the previous season and won the national championship, and then were undefeated that season leading up to the national championship game. And you've got to think, I mean, the run that Miami was on, where you're talking about Clinton Portis and Edgerrin James, Jeremy Shockey, Vince Wolford, John Beeson, John Vilma, Andre Johnson,
Willis McGahee was a backup.
It was an absolute.
I mean, Devin Hester,
an absolute
was a backup on that team.
Yeah, and so they were the world, and going into that game, we were completely written off as dead on arrival. And the thing for us that season is a unique part of that year's squad is we had won so many games by a touchdown or less. We went to overtime in 2 games that season, and we had skated by the skin of our teeth. And so we knew we had to get into a rock fight with them because they had been blowing everybody out of the water. And the big thing going into the actual game was they don't know. Ohio State doesn't have any speed. They're not even in the same weight class. Well, the first play of the game, Will Smith went right around their starting left tackle and sacks Ken Dorsey on the first play of the game. And that moment, every guy on that sideline on that fed game on.
Yes,
it was that moment that we knew that, all right, we're fast enough, we're strong enough. We knew game on. And so the game plays out and it's back and forth and it's an absolute battle. But we knew as the game progressed, the fact that it stayed close was advantage us. They hadn't faced that adversity all season. And so for it to go into double overtime the way that it did, all it did was further galvanize that we had been built for this the entire season leading up to that moment. And to finally punch through to that national championship, it had been since 1968, a 36-year drought for that team. So for us to enjoy the success over Ohio State that the fans had been craving for so long, and then finally to end that drought of national championships was a huge deal, an incredible opportunity.
You guys were absolute Goliath slayers because, like you just said, you turned the corner getting the national championship, but you slayed again, like you said, the Michigan finally turned that over. You just slayed Miami, one of the biggest dynasties in college football history, and then they basically were irrelevant since that year.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was in. That was the death of they're still trying to climb out from that era. That's exactly right. They have been in the woods since then.
Do you and the boys ever get around and be like, man, we still put Miami in shambles like that?
I mean, so in the world of broadcasting, every once in a while I'll talk to one of those Miami guys and they're still pretty butthurt. And you know, it's funny, a couple of years ago, ESPN ranked the top 20 in 2020. They did the 20 national champions of this century, the years 2000s.
Yeah. And
our team was ranked dead last because the controversial call, a pass interference penalty that a lot of people say didn't go the right way. And I love that because, you know, even though we were the 20th, I said, you know, what do they call us? They call us champions.
Yeah, we're still.
And people don't want to
there.
recognize the validity of that. I said, it's guys, like, you wouldn't believe it. They actually gave us the rings. I've got them. They're here in my safe. Like, it's
I want to
ask
during that call, what was going on the field? Like, because, you know, we see so many things. And I feel like every single documentary I see is just completely biased towards Miami. I also hate Miami because I grew up in a Notre Dame household. So I was kind of wondering, like, on your guys' side, what was going on the field? What was Tressel doing after he realized, oh, all right, we have another shot here?
So the weird thing was everybody that watched that game remembers where they were in that moment. And so my perspective was one in the entire world because I was on the field running a route and I had a perfect view of the Chris Gamble play, the guy that the flag was called on his behalf. And the thing that was so unique was I was able to watch the referee. The play rate was run. Gamble was the wide receiver. Can't remember the guy's name that was the cornerback, but he pass interfered. And I watched and I locked in and I set my legs and I watched the referee decide. And
It's like, give it
was
to me,
a-
man.
was a
Throw that
pregnant,
flag.
a pregnant pause. Like smoke was coming out of his ears because he knew, okay, this is a defining decision that he has to make in a couple of. I always said, like, he could have crocheted a yellow handkerchief in the time it took him to throw it because he was wanting to make it right, but he finally threw that call. And what's wild is the way that played out. It was such a slow reaction for him to throw that the fireworks went off. Remember, this last of the game down, the fireworks went off, and Craig Krenzel, the quarterback for Ohio State, famously threw his helmet because he got hit as he released the ball, and so he didn't know what happened. He simply knew he talk about it. I still get chill bumps even to this day thinking about it. And the memory that sticks out the most, and it's timely because of the Super Bowl last night, that when we were up on the stage as the confetti rained down, there were two memories that I asked and I'll never forget. One, as the confetti was around and Coach Tressel's got the crystal football and everybody's taking turns kissing it, I had this moment of clarity of how unique a perspective. I talked about my perspective of being in the end zone, but being in that stage celebrating. My whole life, I'd watched Brett Favre and John Elway and Michael Jordan stand on their championship stages and hold their trophy. And so for me, I was like, I can't believe that I'm on the other side of the camera now getting to hold it. And like that moment was just such a one that I still can see it clear as day. And then the second moment was an intimate one with our family. My parents were there. A whole family was there. And my dad was actually a student at Ohio State in 1968, the year that they had won it prior to our championship. And so
Hartsock blood.
he was at that game, the Rose Bowl in 1968. And so for him to be there in 68 when they won it, and then to be there in 02, to be there when his son was a part of the team that did it, I during the celebration, I was able to kind of lock eyes with him and wave. And he's not an emotional dude, but he was emotional in that moment. Like that's those chapters of history that are so powerful that mine isn't any different than Eddie George's or Archie Griffin's or Chris Spielman's, but mine is mine.
Yeah.
And it's I hold it as dear, and it's something that I'll treasure to the very end.
Man, that heartwarming, man. I mean, again, just being a kid from Chillicothe, like, and this is no surprise to you, but pretty much anyone that was my age or around my age grew up and idolized Ben Hartsock, you know what I mean? And to kind of hear you.
I was at a gas station and I ran into a mutual acquaintance. I don't know him too well, but I was like, oh yeah, like we're actually getting to talk to Ben Hartsock tonight. And he was like, oh, he had an opportunity to play around here, I think shortly after you, and he was at Unioda as well. I don't want to say his name just because I don't want to.
Right.
But anyway, sorry. But he was telling me about when he watched you play, like you got through that offensive line and you would just run it. It wasn't like, he said you didn't have any jiggle. That's the word that he said. He said you didn't have any jiggle. He was like, because it was like you got through, you had a sixth gear, you were able to get past guys, but he was just, one thing that he mentioned was you never changed. He said, like, when you came back, even after everything that you did, he had a conversation with you. And I can text him your name after this, but had a conversation with you, and he was surprised at how down to earth you were and how it was. Is that the upbringing that you had around here? Like the Hartsock family, he had nothing but great things to say about you. But I mean, how do you not change after you win a national championship? How do you not walk around just like you said? You're holding that crystal ball.
Well, because, and this goes back to kind of the sadness I feel for the current state of the game is I. Outside of my family upbringing, my parents actually were just down visiting me. We live, our home's in Georgia now, but my parents were visiting. And so my parents had a huge impact on my life. My dad still farms to this day. My mom, a career educator, taught over at Unioda her career. And you know, my sister, my brother, and I all are doing well, and people say nice things about us, but we're only a product of what they poured into us. But outside of that, for me individually, my experience under Jim Tressel and John Cooper, who recruited me, those guys poured into and helped me understand that some of the lessons I learned, I didn't learn until I was 40 years old, that of why they did some of the things that we thought were stupid at the time, but meant the world of patterns and disciplines that are in our life that helping us. Like when Tressel took the job, he had us do book reports on the 1946 or 8 Ohio State team that had Bill Willis, and we all had to do a book report on a specific player to learn that chapter of history.
That's awesome.
That is
so
awesome.
So that we
freaking
stood. That we understood that there was a big deal. Ohio State was a big deal well before you were born. It's a big deal now that you're here, but it's going to be a big deal add on. And all you can do is maximize your chapter while you're here, and staying true to who you are is fundamental to what Ohio State football players were. And so I think that I would have been a decent kid without that, but that was kind of a force multiplier for me. And the sadness I feel about the game today is there's tons of grateful, awesome young men that are playing college football today that were raised right. But the fundamentals of the game are changing to not make the game about that anymore. It's more about the cash. It's more about
the right now.
Securing
What's
your bag
happening
and
right
your
now.
brand.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have me, Ohio State, as opposed to I can't believe that I get to be a part of the same place that made Orlando Pace and Mike Vrabel. It's the exact opposite. And I wish that we could protect some of those cultural foundations that have been part of college athletics.
I love that through and through because I'm a big history nerd. I feel like it's important to, like you said, Jim said, it's important to know what came before you. It's important to know what's going on now, and it's important to know after you, it's still going to go on. And you kind of led me to a question here. I've always grown up watching him on the sidelines. I've always had to know, what was it like playing for Jim Tressel? I mean, it felt like if a doctor was your coach, but then like had to yell at you. Like that's kind of how I always felt. Like if I was getting yelled at by a doctor.
He had a very quiet intensity about him. He was never a yeller and a screamer. But there's videos that you can see of when he would walk in front of us in the tunnel before we would run out on the field. That was really when he was most intense as our leader. I loved standing there near the front of the pack as we're all getting hyped up to run out through the band, and seeing him kind of pace back and forth. That was kind of his moment, I feel like, to set his own pads, to get himself excited, because the game itself, he was so that, they joked about how he felt like he was senatorial and how he led himself, that he never was popping off or he was always very close to the vest, but he was very cognizant of what it meant to play football at Ohio State. And I don't know how that manifests itself in playing the actual game, other than it helped you as a player realize when you practice on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that it's for more than just that Saturday's game. You were playing for the 120 years before you and the 100 years that's going to come after you, that he made that very important. He built some of the traditions. The singing of Carmen, Ohio, after every game, win or loss, that was started by Jim Tressel. And he brought back former players to talk about the things that were important to them, the Chris Spielmans and the Joe Germains of the world, to make things important. But he was very detail oriented. Coach Cooper was more of a CEO. He let his assistant coaches coach, and he stayed more focused on the bigger picture, which is kind of what college athletics has to be today. Whereas Coach Tressel, he was very involved with the quarterbacks. He was very involved with them. He called the offensive play. So it was a different approach than what John Cooper was.
Now, you said doctor. I always thought of him as more of like a military man because he was like more precise.
Right.
Like,
I
I felt
think
like he didn't.
You said military man. I think his dad was supposed to play for Ohio State, I believe, and actually got drafted.
Yeah.
If
What was it like? Because I want to say this because I think was it your freshman and sophomore year was Cooper, and then Tressel came, or
my redshirt year and then my redshirt freshman year were Cooper's last 2 years. So my redshirt, the year I redshirted was in 1999, and that was we didn't go to a bowl game. We were 6-6. Like, try to think about what would happen in Columbus if they were bowl ineligible.
They just lost one game this year. I mean, the Bigs won. They went
and I'll tell you, like, it was
they're like
it was
an anti-key
weird.
to the city Ryan Day. They'd be like, you're not allowed here anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that season, when we went home for Christmas and didn't have bowl practice, we all were like,
so
this
what
is
was it
not
like when
right.
Tressel came in? What what did he kind of do to let you guys know, like,
well, I mean,
shit.
he made
Was
his
the book report immediately, or was that
310-day
like-
speech. he made his 310-day speech. He the day that he was announced as the head coach, he went to a basketball game, and I was at that basketball game, and that's where he stood. You look this up, where he stood. He goes, "You'll be proud of our young men, classroom, and in the community, 310 days in Ann Arbor, Michigan." And he put it out there because
I'm so
tried to minimize.
I love that, dude. I love who's calling the shot.
Game. He Coach Cooper that game, and Coach Tressel just the opposite. He a huge focus on that game, and it was the first time in my playing career that a coach had made a guarantee. I mean, it wasn't a guarantee, but he was put it out
pretty much.
Somebody's going to be watching
that one in red. It was, and that then put the onus back on us. Okay, the coach check. Now it's important for us. And
I mean, I can imagine one of the players and being like, "Yeah, coach just went out there, pretty much said we're beating Michigan." So
it's like they tell you to go to class, you're just like,
is,
"I'm getting." Did you hear the speech before?
I've always said that, like, if I'm Ohio State or if I'm Michigan and I'm getting a new coach, the one thing I'm going to do if I'm that coach is I'm going to come in and it's like, we're game planning every single week for the last game
of the year.
We're beating them. We're beating them. Whether I was on Ohio State side or Michigan side, I was like, that's the mindset.
It's the game. It's the game. It's lit the game.
If you win one game and it's that game, well, you just ruined somebody else's season.
Yeah.
So, and you ruined the person whose season that you wanted to ruin the most. So.
Now I have to ask. I love the way you talk. I'm a person that loves the English dictionary. I love big words. I like eloquent ways of speaking. I just always felt like it was a good way to express yourself. If you have feelings and you can't use the words to do it, did you take advantage of that full Ohio State education? You speak so well, you present well. Is that something you got from Yoda? Do you want to give them a little props, or what are you thinking?
Judy Hoops, my freshman year, I still have vocabulary lists that Judy Hoops gave us when I was I think I took freshman year English with her, but she had I was a biology major in college, but another thing that when I got into communicating and broadcasting, and even when I was a player at Ohio State, I was often asked to be the guy to communicate to media and do press conferences and things like that. I credit a couple of things that I did growing up in Chillicothe. One was science fairs. And you have to go there and meet people you've never met and present your topic. And then second, I did 4-H, and one of the things I did in 4-H was health and safety speaking competitions, again, where you had to go and speak in front of a room of people that you don't really know, and just getting comfortable with cutting your teeth around people you don't know. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And so, the thing about getting into broadcasting after I got out of the game was there are fewer people working in broadcasting than there are playing in the NFL. And so it's as hard, if not harder, to get on a national level broadcast like I'm a part of at Sirius XM. And so I tried to break in for a couple years, and I just couldn't make it work, even though I had a lot of people say kind things like you did of, you should do this. You've got a way to communicate. But for me, actually, the way that I got the job that I have now working in sports talk radio is a guy that way back in the early 2000s, the major sports talk show in Columbus was Herbie, Kirk Herbst, and Ian Fitzsimmons. Well, Ian Fitzsimmons, since being a Columbus guy, is now doing a national level radio show on ESPN. And he was always a champion of mine when I was at Ohio State, and he helped me get introduced to the powers to be at ESPN Radio, and that's where my broadcasting career started.
They're still on 97.1 out here. We still get them. Still getting love. I love that.
Now, Ben, before I get into where you're at now, I wanted to go even further back in history. Like I said, I'm a big history guy. I'm actually, so having you come on, I was like, got to talk to some people that at least played or coached against you. This is my favorite story, and kind of like Tony, I promised him I wouldn't out him on air. I said, what was it like going against Ben on the defensive end? And he said, there are times where I'd go at him at a pursuit angle, and I'd aim to miss so I didn't have to get hit by him. What I wanted to get at was, when you were playing, man, not for just football, but even for basketball, the SVC from about like 1990 to, I want to say, about 2008, I want to say like the Chillicothe Cavaliers, when they won the state title, was like the cherry on top for that whole generation. What was it like when the way I described it to people is, it was like they got off their 9-to-5 job and then went and played sports. I mean, they were men out there.
Yeah, it's I live in a part of the county, or specifically Gwinnett County, leading edge of high school sports in a way that I didn't know it. And the training and the nutrition and the science that I didn't get until I was in college or even in the professional level, here they're getting it to toddlers. It's mind-boggling. And so for me in Southern Ohio, that doesn't, Cleveland's really well known for its high school football. Cincinnati's pretty well known. Our part of the country or our part of the state wasn't as well known. It's had success, but it's not like Upper Arlington or Canton McKinley, right? Massillon. And so for me, I wasn't hyper focused on what was next. I was just pumped to play for Uniota.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the fundamental things I try to impress, especially today where everybody's like you said earlier, everybody's like, I'm just using Ohio State to get to the league. I'm just getting to the league so I can get to the Pro Bowl. So much of high school athletics is just how can I leverage this to get to whatever my next step of college is. And that's such one, the odds are so long, it's a waste of time. But two, I would do right by your school and good things will come as a product.
Karma is real.
Sure I wanted to go.
Get the free education. You get connections, everything. Yeah. It's not just like they give you a $120,000 education. It's literally like you're getting so much more than that. That's why.
But even at high school, guys, I don't know in your high school sports experience, never has there ever since that period of my 4 years of high school football did I play football with guys that I went to kindergarten with, Keith Cutright and Neil Hoops and Johnny Dowdy and Jeremy Skaggs. Some of these guys I haven't seen since graduation. I moved away right after.
Ball, by the way.
You said a lot. You said a
But
lot.
A lot of names. Their sons are balling right now.
Neil's,
and
nephew.
Cutright?
Yeah.
That has anything to do with
Yeah, that's right. I was
teammates
with a lot of those guys. But that's it's a magic time of life where if you put in the time or are willing to stick with the school that you're a part of, you have an incredible bond of our 1998 SVC championship. Daggone it. It means a lot to me because I played with guys that I spent my entire education with. And so
like you said, you were kids and you've grown up together. It's not like like you said at Ohio State where, you kind of maybe got recruited together, then you came in, then you went through the 4 years together. Where in high school, it's like, I literally was born and raised in the same place that this kid was born and raised.
You know about their parents. You know about their cousins.
Exactly. So,
but that's dead. That era is behind us. I mean, look at the Raiola kid that was committed to. He was committed to Ohio State. That's now was committed to Georgia. Now he's going to Nebraska.
Yeah.
That kid played three out of his 4 years of high school. He was at 3 different schools.
Yeah.
He finished here in Beaufort, just 20 minutes road for me because we was going to go to Athens, and so I hurt because those kids are never going to have those fond memories that I had, and I hope that you guys had. And I'm trying my best because I can be that old guy shaking my fist at this guy.
Yeah.
Because I want others to have that same experience, but that's gone.
And I feel like
I had this conversation about Jim Harbaugh. I couldn't understand how for 2 seasons and finally on the 3rd season he went to the NFL, but 2 previous seasons Harbaugh interviewed with the NFL and didn't get the job. And then he would go back to his team at Michigan. And I'm like, how can he possibly go in front of those 100 dudes and say, yeah, let's go get a Big Ten championship. Let's go get
they don't care and they're their own brand. That's the only way that works.
Well, and so I asked John Jansen is an All-American at Michigan who I'm supposed to hate him, but I love him because he's like the Michigan version of me and I'm the Ohio version of him.
Fair enough.
Where he helped me understand. He said, your guys all play 7-on-7 leagues. They play for multiple high schools throughout their high school career. And so their world is they simply start a season. They look to the left, they look to the right, and they say, okay, this is my team right now. There's my coach. He's my coach today. Maybe he'll be there next month. Maybe he'll be there next season. But that connection that has been kind of the fundamental aspect of the game is no longer there. And
I want to say one thing.
I wish that I could put that toothpaste back in the tube, but I don't think, no, it's not gonna.
I want you to feel a little bit better because just like some of those names you said you play with, some of their sons are playing. We get the opportunity to interview a lot of kids in this area. I'm just saying this to give you hope. There's a lot of people that we sit on this couch and we look at each other and be like, they are more team-oriented. They care about their brothers just as much as I did back then. Like, to the point where I'm looking at them, and they won't – some of the greatest players in our league right now in the SVC won't talk about themselves.
Well,
They
also
will literally only bring up.
to speak
Well,
about
but I
your
think
alma mater,
that Ross County is a special place because it's
Exactly.
not tainted by the sophistication that's happening where I
Preach.
call my home now. Like
Spot on.
it's
So, like,
it
with your
really
alma
is a
mater,
special
UNIOTA,
place that's a little insulated.
So, like, with UNIOTA, they've been, like, we just talked to Coach Miller, which is a girls coach there. He's spending time going to, like, the 7th grade, the 6th grade, you know, the biddy leagues to kind of, like, build a program
A
mentality.
culture.
I'm here.
Culture.
To, like, hey, stick with UNIOTA. Don't leave school. Stay with us, like, through and through. And I think, I mean, they have one of the best girls teams I've ever seen.
And that's a huge reason why,
and
because
it's-
when you're in 5th grade, you know, when I get to varsity, this is my coach.
Yeah.
Like, because
And he
wants
watched
to
me in
stick
5th
around.
grade and already knew
Yeah,
I was
and
going
he-
to.
Right.
and he's cared the whole
what
time.
you said with, like, you know, you have, like, you know, kids kind of moving and going and blah, blah, blah. I feel like what people don't realize that takes away from, too, is they're like, oh, well, the student sections are the same. Student sections are the same. It's like, well, whenever your student body's going out there, like, I don't know any of these people on the field. How am I supposed to say, yeah, go us? It's like, I don't know you.
Well, there's
which,
no rivalries. 'cause the
exactly.
kids aren't in-
And that's
so you are completely correct.
Yeah.
It's gone.
That's kind of why
but I
we're
was-
here, Ben. We're trying to bring that back. So we're with
we're
you.
bringing it back.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, man. I'd be reluctant if I didn't. What were some of maybe your favorite memories?
Or favorite cities, because that was my question. You can lump them into two.
Well, that's the second question. Because I'm gonna say, what's some of your favorite memories just playing in the SVC? Like, is it like maybe a game? Maybe some of the favorite people you played against, maybe with. Just kind of want to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, I mean, so my senior year, I was super tight with Neil Hoops, who's his brother's now the head coach at Ohio State,
Yes, sir.
Matt. But Neil Hoops and I were teammates, and Keith Cutright, who his nephew is a baller for UNIOTA right now, playing wide receiver.
absolute dude. He's
Yeah,
a wide
yeah,
receiver
he's
weapon.
great.
I played corner in football,
So
and I love
those-
the way he plays.
Me and those two, like, we were thick as thieves. And last year, the night before training camp opened, we knew we were starting our last hoorah, and we camped out on the football field.
Oh
Like,
my
we were
God,
just
that's
so juiced
awesome.
up that we wanted to camp out, and we slept on the football field the night before training camp. And, like, my memories are usually the stuff outside of the game. Like, we
Yes,
had awesome
with your
games
brothers.
against, we beat Piketon and had a big game versus Southeastern that year. But the memories are, oh gosh, Heath Causey is the best dude. You know, a guy that was in the same class, and he brought a hibachi grill to two-a-days, and he cooked steaks
What?
in between practices during two-a-days. And,
Nice
like,
to know.
it's just such a funny thing. And Eric Anders, he didn't like that he got some divots in his helmet, and so he sanded his helmet to try to smooth it out. But the problem is he took the gloss off of the helmet finish and turned it into a mat. And we just gave him grief for the whole season because, like, Eric, you can't do that. And Josh Bean, who now just finished a 20-year career in the Marine in the Navy,
For
you know,
sure.
he played tight end, and he always had to be like scout team against me. And he had a loose shoulder, and I knocked his shoulder out of place. It felt like 2 or 3 times that season, and so, like, I was like, he's trying to put it. It got to the point where he almost had to put it back in himself. So those are the memories that I have of. And guys like Tony Keaton, I haven't seen Tony Keaton since high school, but, like, he went to the vocational school.
Yeah.
And he still came back after every day to make sure to get back for football practice. And he wasn't a starter, but he was a part of our team, and it mattered. You know, like,
because
just those
it
those-
was what
those
you guys
memories
were
you
building.
have.
Yeah, it's amazing, man. Because, like, everything you're saying, like, it makes me
You're
happy.
the coolest guy I ever met.
It makes me happy because, like, that's kind of how the SVC was. Like, you talk about vocational school, man.
Dude,
I remember
you're bringing up
my
backups?
freshman and my sophomore year. You get to be with all your friends, and then, like, you come to school one day, and they all went to Pickway Ross, and you're kind of like, where the hell did all these people go? And then they show up for practice. You're like, dude, where have you been all day? They're like, I was at Pickway Ross. You're like,
Welding.
what? So, like, and like you said, a lot of them weren't starters, but they're like, especially in Pay Valley, I feel like, you know, playing this for you kind of understand, like, Pay Valley football is, I mean, I compare it to, like, Alabama football. I mean, it is religion out there. And kids just want to be on the team to be on the team. And to hear that's how it was whenever you were playing, it just brings a smile to my face, honest to God. And now I do want to get to Tony's question. Where's your favorite place to play in the NFL? Favorite city, man? I gotta ask.
You got down to
I mean,
Atlanta.
Played with Peyton.
Picking
in
a favorite team's kind of like picking a favorite kid. You know,
I don't want
there's
team, I want
aspects
city. What'd
of.
you like in the city? I'm from Philadelphia, so I like to know what cities I might want to go visit.
So I played for 5 teams, and I can tell you the things that I loved about each of them. So drafted into the Indianapolis Colts. Tony Dungy, a Hall of Fame coach, a man of faith that helped me grow tremendously. Playing with Peyton Manning, one of the all-time greats, was incredible. Made teammates there that I'm still close with today and talk to regularly. Like, that was a special time. Tennessee Titans was my second team. I played terribly. I was nervous with the Colts, and I wet the bed there. So, like, professionally that struggled, even though relationally it was good. The Tennessee Titans was my second team, and that was where my career kind of took off. Vince Young as a rookie, and he and I connected, and I caught passes there and played and had success there. So my career really reignited with that team. Playing for the Atlanta Falcons, I was only one season, but we found our home. We found a community of people that we've gotten close with and are living our lives together, raising our kids together. Got a great church home here, so that's the Atlanta Falcons. And then the New York Jets. The Jets is probably the one that if you held me to the fire and said I had to pick one, those were the most successful teams that I was a part of. We went to 2 AFC championship teams.
You're big time when you were there.
Really, the last time the Jets were really relevant was around that era.
A lot of the teams that they all fell to pieces when I left. They didn't want to admit it, but after they cut me,
we know what the glue was. It was the Hartsock glue.
Took another 14 years to get another national title.
Those Jets teams. Playing with LaDainian Tomlinson, who's a Hall of Famer, and Jason Taylor, who's a Hall of Famer, and Nick
What was
Mangold,
Rex Ryan
and Ohio
like as a
State
coach,
great.
man? I love watching him on TV. I think he's hilarious.
I think he's the funniest coach.
Yes, I feel like I'd have a good time.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. What you see on TV is what he was like as a coach. He's a guy that knows how to stand in front of a group of hard-nosed, salty dog pro football players and motivate them to go do the hard things. I loved him as a coach.
I felt like that's what your guys' identity
fun.
was too. Whenever you went to those 2
Tough
AFC
guy,
championships.
barroom brawler.
Was
We
Scott
were physical. Sorry,
was Bart Scott on that team?
he was. Yeah, can't wait. Bart Scott.
Can't wait. Yeah, can't wait.
Can't wait.
Come on, baby.
Yeah.
So I want. What was it like? Because I don't really know anybody that got to even try to experience this. I always hear New York media, New York media, New York media. Mm-hmm. I feel like, to me, when I hear New York media, and again, I am literally a nobody, it's just as soon as you go into the locker room, maybe like 5 minutes, change your pants real quick, and then you're getting bum rushed by media. Is that kind of what it was like?
Yeah, and they're quick to criticize. They called me out several times, and like I said, I played a good bit while I was there, and that team was good. I had a game where I had a couple of holding penalties that we lost, and they really laid that loss at my feet of this backup role player tight end blowing the team's success up. And so they're a passionate fan base, but they are a demanding fan base. And so they at 100% is absolutely true. And that part of the country, my last stop was with the Carolina Panthers, and I was teammates with Greg Olson, a guy from that New Jersey, New York area.
Wayne, he's from Wayne, New Jersey. I actually know people that know
Wayne,
him.
New Jersey. His dad was a high school coach, state championship coach, and like learning how to be around those kinds of people, like they are at first like the Midwest nice kind of thing is like, wow, these people are super aggressive, right? But that's just kind of their lifestyle.
Yeah.
But once you kind of crack through that, guys like that are the most loyal and down to earth and loving people you've ever met.
We got one on our show.
I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I come out here. I am in a world where people think I am always
just an ass, and you're not.
Is he mad at you? And they're like, no, he just gave me like 15 compliments. I feel way better.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, so you talked about the teams you played for. What was your favorite place to play at that wasn't a home stadium?
In college, Camp Randall was incredible. It's an old stadium that they've modernized, and then they have the end of third quarter jump around where they play the jump around in that entire stadium. They play that House of Pain song. It's incredible. I remember
does that.
being on that field when that's playing and looking around, and the whole stadium is like alive. It was that was awesome.
And then you go out there and kick their ass.
The coaches up in the press box talk about it feels like that the press box is rocking. It was going to fall off of the back of the stadium. It's such a cool environment. Penn State's another one that, the whiteouts
I
are
was about to say
whiteouts
whiteout.
weren't a thing when I was playing,
boo
but
for Beaver.
they know how to be loud. But in the NFL, playing in Lambeau was outside, that was one of the few places that had real soul to it. A lot of the NFL stadiums are just places with football fields in them.
Yeah.
They
They
don't
got, like,
have
houses
that
like
same
100 yards from the stadium, don't they?
Yeah, Lambeau was awesome, and I got to go there. It wasn't bitter cold, so it wasn't a miserable
He's like, so I got
game
to
to go
enjoy it.
to. Yeah, I actually got to enjoy it, but Lambeau was definitely one of my favorites. And
Now, did you prefer to play
in my
in the-
career, it's kind of weird stat. In my 10 years of playing, I played in every stadium except one. The only place I didn't get to go was Jerry World, where the
wow,
Cowboys
really?
played.
You're very
I
lucky.
played against the Cowboys, but I never played against them in Jerry World. I've been there and watched games since
Now,
then, but never
Did you
never
grow
played
up a
there.
Browns or a Bengals fan? And whenever you got to go to that stadium, what was that like?
Yeah, so we grew up Ohio State fans, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
My dad kind of says he's a Bengal fan, and my brother, we have close family friends that were Browns fan, and so we were kind of split, but we were universally Ohio State fans, and ultimately, like I never went to a pro game until I played in one. I had never been to a pro game. My first ever attending a pro game was as a player. It was actually the first
Have
game
you
I
ever
ever
actually
attended
been
as
to
a
a pro
fan
game
was a
as a
couple
fan?
years after being out of the NFL.
Oh, okay. So a couple years after the NFL was the first time watching an NFL game, like not on the sideline.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
talk about watching the game. I want to finally get to what you're doing now. Sorry, I can't tell you how.
This is the
long-
best interview
Yeah.
ever.
We've been waiting. This is a big day for us.
I literally
especially
want
being
to
on
have
here.
kids on the show and be like, look, we've got a clip from Ben Hartsock. This is what we want you to understand because we can't speak well.
Yeah, but now you're doing some serious. I see you're a huge RV enthusiast. I dreamed of officially having an RV. Got a 40 Econoline 2000 right now. That's like my RV.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
working my way up to that life. But I got to
Get
see
in,
also
man.
you
Get
were
in
at
where you
the-
fit in.
Right? I got to see where you're at the Army Navy game as well. What has Sirius been, and what's it kind of been like broadcasting? Get to kind of go to games like that and live your life out now.
Yeah, so if you can't play the game, talking about it's the next best option, and I was able to kind of get a spot, and it's incredible. The world of broadcasting it's cutthroat. Like I said it. I said it when I got the job in 2017. I said if I'm doing this in 5 years, I'll be lucky. And I just finished my 7th season. So
Let's go!
Let's
Let's
go!
go!
Yeah,
That's the Hartsock
thankful
way,
to have a
baby.
job.
Skill.
Thankful to have a job. But I did a couple years of calling games. I worked for ESPN Radio, and I was one of their national broadcasters. And I got to call good games. I've been to the Coliseum and called a USC game, and I've been to Happy Valley and called a Penn State game, and Tennessee and Neyland. So like good games. I ended up walking away from that because where my kids are in life, and I wanted to be able to watch my kids are in high school.
Stand up,
So
Dad.
I've switched to now I just do talk shows on Sirius. If you subscribe to Sirius Radio, they have a college sports radio channel that I'm a part of, and then they also have a Big Ten conference channel, and I split my hours between those two channels, and we just simply talk about the sports of the day. And now that football season is fully done, we're pushing into March Madness and college basketball. We cover college baseball, and it's
Who you liking in college basketball this year? I'm gonna lose in the first day or first weekend like they do every year. I think Arizona with Caleb Love, the way they've kind of been like developing under kind of back and forth, team to watch out for. And if Xavier makes it, they're winning the whole thing because we're Dante Jackson fans over here.
Yeah, I really like Tennessee with this Dalton Connect guy. That's just a smooth player.
Adam was
putting up
talking
like
about
30
him
points
earlier
a
this
game.
year.
They got a loss this weekend. They had 4 fouls, foul trouble in that game. I want Purdue, like you say, they've continued to struggle, but I love the Zach Edey story that he's a late bloomer, a guy that Matt Painter took a chance on. They've got parts around him, Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith, and Lance Jones is transferred from Southern Illinois. I want it to be Purdue, but I'm like you. I've been stung so many times. I'm not ready to push in with them. I'll tell you, though, UConn might be able to repeat because they have so much depth.
I just didn't want to say it.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
To me,
I know.
Purdue should go ahead and just start calling themselves Purdue.
Listen, the Michael Jordan crying face meme on the Purdue mascot just lives rent free in my head, and that's why I can never pick it. Well, Ben,
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on this show with just three dumb idiots.
Please come on again.
Yeah, I mean-
I'm so bad at not asking questions, and I did really good. I have like 6 in my pocket right now. I did so good that interview. Please come back.
But yes, Ben, it
Yeah,
was
when it
awesome.
when it gets dull and you need something, you need to tell some old stories. You can bring me back, guys. Anytime.
Hey,
I
you
could
heard it
care
here
less
first.
if no one listens. I enjoyed this conversation so much. The
Ben-
words that you said, the way you
Yep.
did it, absolutely.
And
phenomenal.
again, like I said, man, growing up, the time that I did, like you were idols, man, and what you've done to give back. I remember your football camps whenever I was a kid. I remember just hearing. I don't know if you remember this, but I was in a play with you at the First Presbyterian Church. I was baby Jesus. So let us all not forget that I was in the same production as Ben Hartsock.
They were like,
That's
no, you played football
amazing.
with him. No, same production.
Production.
not
I
game.
was
We were
3 months old.
actors.
I was literally 3 months old. But Ben,
I was probably Goliath. They always cast me as Goliath in those kind of deals. Big kid.
Well, but Ben, again, we just want to say thank you so much for coming on, man, and it was an absolute pleasure getting to catch up with you.
Yeah, I love it, guys. Love that you guys are doing local coverage. I do keep up with as much as I can of what's going on in the SVC in my hometown. Love where I'm from. Love being a part of it. And thank you guys for keeping that going, man. Appreciate
Ladies
it.
and gentlemen, the 2002 national champion and the coolest guy you'll ever meet, Ben Hartsock.
You guys want to take a vote right now? We'll do it. Best 2 out of 3.
What?
Coolest guy you've ever talked to?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
Unanimous.
Ben
Yeah,
Hartsock.
that's the
Well,
coolest
I don't know. It might get broken here in a little bit because
That's
we
the
got.
truth.
So before we get to our next guest, want to talk about a big reason why we're having him on. If you guys have been living under a rock for the past few weeks, you might not know that Addison Edgington, she got in a really bad car wreck on the great Circleville team, actually undefeated right now going in. We are having a benefit concert for her. So it's $5 to get in. It's going to be on March 9th at Creekside Occasions. So
All proceeds go to the family.
all proceeds are going to the family. So make sure that you're coming out. We're going to have great music, great time. Lori Graves is going to be emceeing and doing stand-up comedy with a lot of
One
other
of the
good comedy
funniest
guests.
humans I've ever met.
Literally hilarious.
So not only do you get music when you're like, man, that music was great. I just need a second to gather myself and relax. Why don't you relax with some comedy?
Exactly.
Because there's a comedic act in between each.
We're gonna
freaking band.
have food trucks out there, more than one, because my biggest thing going
Variety.
into an event, man, is like, hey, this is the food that we have. Okay, you brought like
That food's
top-
ass.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
We're
Like
not
I
gonna
want
have
for
any
it.
bad
No.
food
Now
there. We're
look,
gonna have
We're gonna have
three
good food trucks there. We're gonna have a silent auction.
And there is some doozies.
Dick
already.
Vitale signed memorabilia there. But ladies and gentlemen, there's one huge reason that if I haven't named one yet that you should go there. It is a kid that was a dog at sports, locked himself in a room and was like, you know what? Now I'm the new Nashville High. It is the one and only Moose Miller. Moose, what's up, my man?
crazy
How we
sick
doing?
mustache.
I
Love the
know what I
mustache,
was about
dude.
to say.
Thank you,
Was
thank you,
not
thank
ready
you.
for
Oh my
the hot
God, dude.
mustache.
Thank
How-
you.
We're not
Just
worthy.
let
Down, down, dude.
How long you been growing that
I feel like
stash,
you
my
have
man?
to. If you can't fill in a full beard like me, you just have to rock with the stash. There's really no other option.
Yeah, but you also have to be able to grow this.
Some
stash.
people can't pull off a stash.
Dude,
You
with the
my
nice
friend,
slick
pull it
hair
off.
and everything.
Don't be downplaying yourself. The
Thanks,
sideburns
man.
and the inside burn.
Now,
That's a
Moose,
nice
I got to talk to you. You just had a pretty big weekend a couple weekends ago at the Majestic Theater, sold out crowd. Talk to us about that a little bit, my man.
Man, it's crazy. So I grew up in, Pike County, Ohio. Until I was 5, I lived out in Knockemstiff, though, in Ross County towards Paint Valley and everything. So,
Know exactly where Knockemstiff is, my
yeah,
man.
man. Come on. Yeah, so it was my first time. I've been back home a few times since 2019 when I moved to Nashville to play. But that was my first time like doing any sort of like ticketed event or anything like that. So hometown and everybody showed up. It was super special. Probably the most fun night I've ever had, to be
Hell yeah,
completely
man,
honest
especially
with
If
you.
I didn't have a kid, I'd be there.
I was going to say, in an amazing, like,
All good.
historic venue like the Majestic
Oh,
Theater,
It's
man.
one of my favorites just because it's hometown Chillicothe.
I mean, you know about Blood Alley, don't you?
I do not.
Oh, so there is a rumor that back during the war, that they used to store bodies in there and the blood would go out to the alley, and that's called Blood Alley. I don't believe it, but hey.
What war?
I don't know. Hold on. That's what I said. I said, what war happened in Ohio? I don't understand. But Moose,
I believe every second.
Moose, I want to talk to you. So I got to talk to the legendary Dave Shoemaker the other day, and I've been kind of learning more about you while we've been here and everything like that. He told me that you basically talked to him and said you were a great athlete. I feel like a lot of people forget how good of an athlete you were. Then you go to Nashville. Some stuff I don't know what to say Nashville specifically, but I think you go to Tennessee, some stuff happens, and then you basically locked yourself in a room and went to, our artist said, here's my songs, and the guy said, holy shit, it needed more. Am I paraphrasing there, or how's your music story go, man?
I mean, somewhat, yeah, I mean, ballpark. So I moved to Nashville in 2019 for college. I got a basketball scholarship to play at a school. So I was there for my freshman and sophomore year. And after my sophomore year, I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing in Nashville. I hope, I don't know. I always had this thing in me. I wanted to write songs. I fell in love with songwriters and good songs and stuff like that. And I kind of used it as an outlet when I was in college. And I left school after my sophomore year, going into my junior year, quit the team and everything. And this was the locking myself in a room kind of story.
Yeah.
Basically, what I did was I didn't play out for a whole year. I just stayed pretty much. I go work. I actually cleaned rugs at the time. So I was cleaning rugs. Crazy stories.
Hey,
too.
they tie the whole
Really
room together, as I've watched in The Big Lebowski.
Dude, yeah, it was crazy. So that's what I did, and I just tried to write a song every single day. I had a couple people in Nashville that I reached out to. I was like, "You have any advice?" Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just know I'm
people
gonna write
don't understand
songs.
how hard it is to write. Like, you can't just sit down and be like, "Here's the words."
You can write lyrics, yes.
Yeah.
But then being able to write the music, the sheet music behind those lyrics, and having it line up.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
the
you're
whole
going to want to
story.
write the actual music, the chords first, and then go into like lyrics. Is that kind of like your process, or do you have like a?
Yeah, I do. I do it a lot of different ways. I'm still trying to get better. I kind of look at everything through a sports lens too, because that's what I grew up doing, was playing sports. So I kind of look at everything like kind of competitively with myself. So sometimes I'll like think of a melody or a couple lyrics, and then I'll have to kind of figure it out on the
It's like a
guitar.
puzzle. It's like, okay, I have
Yeah, it
this.
is.
I
It
really
is.
like this.
Yeah.
How do I get there from here to here? You
Mhm.
know, like, because I played
Yeah.
the piano, couldn't write a song. I mean, I wrote one song one time, and I was like, yeah, nope, that's not what I'm here for. But like, there's this
Well,
times
dude, I
where
can't
like,
play piano.
yeah, but there's like times where you just kind of get a loop, like like you start hitting some random notes. You're like, man, this kind of chord goes together with this chord. Then you're like, well, this is a really good instrumental, but no words, and I feel like it needs words here, And I feel like with you, you're like, well, shit, these words are actually good too. Is that kind of what happened?
Man, dude, I've wrote so many bad songs starting out.
I
wrote
love that.
So many. I
That's
can't
a
remember
true
who
artist
said
right
it.
there, man. Hold on, let's
I
start
wanna
with the
say-
work.
I want to say Ed Sheeran. I'm not sure. It was someone I heard. It's like songwriting is like turning on like an old spigot that you haven't had water run through in years. And when you turn it on, it's all this muddy water that's coming out. But if you let it run long enough, eventually you'll get some drinkable
That
stuff.
is-
So that's
Basically get
yes.
crystal clear.
That is
Yeah.
perfect.
it's
Now,
true.
I want to
True.
ask you because, like, so for me,
Yeah.
when I was in 5th grade, kind of funny story. My mom and dad ran into this guy at the bar, and he said he knew how to teach piano. And then he showed up on my doorstep, and he definitely looked homeless. Turns out to be the most influential person in my entire life. So I would say, like, that's how I learned, right? But he came in, and I really wanted to play guitar just because, what I think
Cooler.
I think I just
It's
got done
cool.
watching. You ever watched the movie The Rocker with Dwight? I
Yeah.
call him Dwight Schrute, but Rainn Wilson. I had just
Yeah.
got done watching that movie, and I'm like, yeah, I want to be a guitar player. So I tried
Yeah.
to learn guitar for like a month, and it just took me a month to learn 2 songs. And he was like, well, let's sit down at the piano and like you want to learn like other instruments. I was like, hell yeah, I had a piano sitting there. Learned like 6 songs in one lesson. I was like, dude, screw the guitar. Like I'm gonna
Luke
stick.
York did the same thing. He was like, look, chord. Like
Yeah.
when he was showing me a little.
I was like, I'm gonna stick with this. Is that kind of what happened with
I
you
love Luke.
in guitar, or how did you kind of be like, yo, guitar and singing is my thing?
Dude, I grew up playing in church a little bit,
Okay.
like with singing hymns and stuff like that. Not, I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah.
I grew up playing like on the front row and stuff, trying to follow along on the guitar. But after like, I started playing when I was like 10, but everything after, I was like a pretty good 10-year-old at guitar.
Right.
And then when I was like 19, I was like a 10-year-old playing the guitar.
Yeah.
So I didn't get better at all.
Yeah.
Like at all. So I had to work at that. But I tried to play piano. I've tried learning. I'm still kind of figuring out. I got some of the chords down, but respect to you because that is way harder than the guitar.
When I was a kid, I feel like I knew that piano was gonna be my thing because when I was a kid, I was the kid that would annoy the shit out of everybody else because I would just have my fingers on the desk, like just rolling them and stuff like that. And then like I'm like real fidgety, so I feel like when I'm playing the piano, it's really just my fingers like fidgeting something.
I feel like with the piano too, there's a simplicity to it that it's
It
very
is.
technical with what you can do, but when you play a chord, you don't have to technically adjust any part of your body. The fingers for me is where I lost the guitar.
Well, I feel like in my perspective is like with the guitar, it kind of gets for me, it's like, where the hell am I at? You know? Okay,
and
so
you can mess up a chord.
So it's like let's take it like you're using a GPS, right? I feel like when I'm I'm playing guitar, my GPS is rerouting and not rerouting at all. It just keeps saying rerouting, and I'm like, where am I right now? To where when I'm on a piano, I feel like it's all the answers are right there in front of you. You almost just kind of have to like read it right. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But like it's so crazy because I 100% can feel what you said when you're like, hey, when I started playing guitar when I was 10, and then like 3 years later, I felt like I was a good 10-year-old player at guitar. And I can feel that because I learned to play piano, and then I get good, and people be like, man, you're really good at piano. And I'm like, hey, no, I'm not. I just got really good at these things, but like the overall piano is not there. And then when I got out of high school. And I got out of high school, I had like so much time on my hands. That's kind of when I really sat down and I was like, oh, wait, like I kind of started piecing everything together what I was doing. Is that kind of what your process was like? Or
Well, yeah, I remember going to, so my dad kind of taught me kind of the basic chords, and I learned those. I caught on fairly quick. And so I went to, I had a guitar teacher for a little while, probably maybe like a year. I really can't remember, but I remember I went in and I was like, all right, I need to learn how to play AC/DC songs. I just need to learn like the intros to these. I don't need to learn them through.
That's what I was told. If you're going to learn the keyboard, he said, you better learn Freebird. That's what I was told.
My favorite thing about Clay and playing piano is we were just at BBB Music, shout out them. And so everybody knows there's certain songs that are just on the forbidden list
of playing when you go
like
into
you
a store.
do not play. Like Stairway to Heaven is one of them.
I don't listen
Clay's
to the rules.
Playing Stairway to Heaven, and the owner of the store looks up at me and goes, he's really good. I was thinking, this is a banned song in most places, and you're okay with it because he's just so much better at playing. It's like I was the only time I'm going to toot Clay's horn, but toot Clay.
I want to ask now. I want to ask you, Moose, man. Like when I go to the piano, the first song that I like ever really think about playing is "House of the Rising Sun." It was one of the first songs I learned on the piano that I was like doing runs with my left while I was playing the melody with my right. When you're picking up a guitar, is there like what's like the natural song that comes to your head, whether it's I want to play it or it's just like a memory or anything like that?
Recently, it's been "Dust in a Baggie," Billy Strings.
Hell yeah.
I love like the bluegrassy kind of stuff. So I've been listening to a lot of that. I grew up listening to Southern gospel and bluegrass in church, so I've always loved that. But I mean, Billy Strings is insane, so it doesn't.
Yes,
like him
yes, dude. Oh my God, I'm so glad. Billy Strings is a freaking legend, man. A lot of people don't listen to him. Deadheads do because he wants to be the new Deadhead. But Billy Strings, man, right now is on another level. Tony, you're looking at me.
Because people slept on him forever. One,
Yes.
if you're winning pick competitions, there's a reason you should be looked at. Number two, you got to check out his interview where he talks about finding his dad's guitar.
Yeah.
So they ended up hawking it, and then he ends up finding it later, same guitar case and everything, ends up going to buy it back. Like, I don't know. I've never met him. I can't speak on him, but when you look at these things and you see a natural interview, I was like, damn, dude.
Adam, I knew you had a question.
Yeah, so my question was, is there a particular song or a particular moment in your life when you realize, like, hey, I want to get into music. I want to start playing guitar. I want to learn an instrument. I want to be doing something in music.
Yeah, I think starting out, like in church playing, I was like, well, if I'm gonna, when you're young, you get made to go to church. At least I did, anyways.
Same.
Yeah.
So you're like, you're gonna be there. You might as well learn how to play an instrument or something while you're there. And I was like, man, I want to learn how to play the guitar and play up on the front row instead of sitting in the back.
No.
So
Do you feel like that church
I was like,
experience
yeah, let
helped
me-
you play in front of people? Like, we had someone
100%,
on here
yeah.
just before, bet, you know what I mean? People talking about just, smaller times being ready for big stage. Do you feel like the church got you your first taste of people watching you?
Yeah, I think so. I remember I would sing a little bit too, like on stage, like a couple songs. But I remember the last time I sang in church, I was probably like, I might have been 12, probably too old for this, what I'm about to say. But I remember going up there, and it was my turn to sing, and I'm sitting up there with the guitar, and I just looked at everyone looking at me, man, and I just walked off stage and started crying.
And let me tell you, picturing everyone in their underwear is not the fucking answer. You see it on TV all the time. It's like, this is worse now.
So now there's an angry guy in his underwear.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's insane. Like, now I want to ask you, and Adam asked, and I thought it was a great question because, like, I feel like every musician has that time where, like, this is what I want to do. And for me, it was, big band influences on me. No secret is the Grateful Dead. My dad grew up a Deadhead. And for me, it was like, man, when my dad is listening to this music, like, I'm his son, and I would never make him this happy. You know what I mean? Like, music just does something to people. And that's whenever I knew, like, I wanted to just somehow create that for people. Was there a band that either you listened to or you maybe watched people listen to that made you,
or somebody that played?
That started getting you that kind of feeling?
Yeah, I think honestly, when I was in high school and I found out about Tyler Childers, I kind of had that same thing where I was like, holy cow, because man, I remember hearing the Purgatory album was the first album that I had heard from him.
Yeah.
It was like it was probably 2017 when I heard it. So I think that's the year it came out. But I remember listening to that and I was like, where is this dude? Because it like sounds familiar. Like it sounds like back home.
It sounds like you just went down to the Cross Keys and you listened to the guy that was playing. Have you ever listened to the strip version of White House Road?
Oh yeah.
That's literally how I got introduced to Tyler Childers. And I was like, because I'll say this to you. I said it in the group. So I texted the group. I said, hey, Moose Miller's going to be coming on just to let you guys know he sings country and I like it. Because I'm not a big country guy. But when I listened to Tyler Childers, it was the same way because I feel like what I say now and
look at Nose on the Grindstone is another perfect example for this area. You
because
listen to that song, you're like, this dude has to be from around here.
And it's like he's either speaking to me or he's speaking to my friend. You know what I mean? I mean, you can really feel it.
Well, I mean, he literally has a song that says driving past the paper or taking in the sounds.
Well, yeah, because he probably smelled it. He lived in Kentucky.
Well, no, he played at Steiner's and he did Paper City Music Festival as well.
Yeah, man.
Hey, quick note, my dad served him on his food truck for the Fat Cat. I'll tell you that later.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to answer the question, man, I remember hearing that and I was like, man, that just sounds like it was the first time I felt like I could really see myself kind of in somebody's songs. And then not too long after that too with like Zach Bryan as well.
Yes,
like, I
was just about to ask.
He plays with Warren Treaty. Like,
if you
dude,
had any
this guy
influence
knows.
from Zach Bryan. Like when I saw him come out with Condemned on Twitter, I was like one of the first 100 views. Love Zach Bryan. Like I just.
Dude, he's playing with people like Warren Treaty. You're talking about deep soul singers,
oh yeah.
I think the reason why you belong so well in the music that I've listened to is like when you watch even the video, like I feel like you're seeing something that's true. A lot of the music that we've seen for years, when you look at people like Tyler Childers, Sturgill Simpson, you're talking about bringing back the Outlaws of Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings.
Yeah.
These dudes match up perfectly. They all have their own thing. Colton Waller, whatever. That is Johnny
Colton.
Cash's son. Dude.
Yeah.
I don't care. I want a
yeah.
paternity test.
Real quick,
Listen
did
to
I
that
just see you
motherfucker.
take a drink out of a mason jar? Are you officially the second person to drink out of a mason jar on the show? Because I usually rock. Yeah, it's a southern thing.
Yeah, I think I have
Love it.
literally that mason
Yeah,
jar in
like,
my.
I'm always drinking out of mason jars.
These are the only glasses that I have in my house.
It is a
love it.
Southern
And you get
Ohio
it.
thing.
It's a country thing for sure. So I love
12 pack
that.
for $3.99, and you got lids if you want to save it for later.
Like, dude, it's like 98 cents for like a pack of 12. Are you kidding me?
No, Moose,
Yeah.
you say that you're seeing people in your songs. You say that your idolize being on the stage. Man, now you're on the stage, man. What? So I want to make sure I get this right, and if I don't, it's because I'm the worst journalist of all time because I'm not a journalist. But are you playing in
good.
Nashville now? You're kind of going through the circuit, or what's your music career like now? And what's it like, man, just like walking on the stage? Because like, I mean, I've been on stage playing cover band music, but I've never walked on stage to sing my songs, and people are like, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it'd be easier to answer the second one first.
Okay.
The Majestic show. I've done a show in Nashville that is like an actual full set, like hour and a half, hour 15, whatever, similar to the Majestic. And had a lot of friends and family come in for that. And there's just the difference in someone, I think, caring about what you have to say versus, I don't know. I've kind of always looked at it. I love and respect people that can, for one, just go up on stage and play anything. I don't care if it's covers, originals, whatever, dude. It's hard. Like, I don't care what anyone says.
Nerve-wracking, dude. Like,
It's
nerve-wracking.
horrifying at first, man. It really is. And I remember, like, at the Majestic, for example, the biggest crowd I've ever brought in was in Richie's Barbecue in Piketon. It was probably
Shout
like
out.
110,
Big
100.
fan.
Shout out. We are big fans of Richie's Barbecue.
They love the
Ben
show.
Hartsock, we
Dude.
love you.
You're the man.
Dude, Richie's Barbecue's the best.
Yes.
They were
Gotta say
they were
that
one
to
of the
Ben.
first
Yes.
people, if not the first, to want me to come in and play a show. And I started
They believed
putting some covers up.
Yes.
Love it.
Love
They're the
Richie's.
best, man. I
Love
love them.
Richie's.
I love them. But yeah, so whenever we were talking about doing the Majestic gig, I was like, I would love to do it, but how many people can it hold?
Yeah.
And they were like, it's 500. And I was like, well, I don't want to be, I don't want to do you guys dirty and think that I'm going to be bringing 500 people out here because I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that.
I
So,
love it.
We've
Like,
had the two realest people ever on the
He
show.
said,
I thought it was going to be
Both of you
substantially
guys
less
have been
seats.
so
he
real.
said, dude, I was looking for like 80.
Yeah. I thought it was going to be substantially
Dude,
less
I would have
seats.
been, that's the thing. I'm not even trying to be like a nice guy when I say this. If 80 people or 20 people would have showed up that wanted to hear my songs, I would have been pumped.
Yeah.
Either way.
That's,
I would have been. I really would have been.
I bring up
It's-
the church thing because the people, when you go to the front of a church, having been around it a lot of my life, they watch
Mhm.
and they feel.
Oh,
Like
dude.
when you sing church hymns,
Dude.
man, there's some people, you look out in the crowd, you might see tears.
There's a great story that
Oh,
Shu
yeah.
told me, and it's so great that I don't even remember who the guy was, but he wrote a book, and he said that I played
Yeah.
at Woodstock.
You
I
suck.
know,
You
I know.
suck.
and he played at Woodstock. It was like the first year that they were. It was a thing, and he went on after the Grateful Dead, and lo and behold, Grateful Dead played longer than they should have, and so everybody passed out. Like by the end of their set, and he came on, right? He was pissed. He played like 2 or 3 songs. He was pissed. He was ready to leave. He's like, why am I even up here? Looks at the very top, like right corner. And there's this one guy that's like, I'm here with you, my man. And he's like, I played to that guy for the rest of the show. So, like, I totally get what you mean, man. When, like, you're a musician,
Yeah.
because I feel like a lot of musicians, especially from where we're at, man, when you play music, you put your heart on your sleeve. Like, you're really putting yourself out there. Like, for me, like, it's like I could practice for 6 months. And as soon as I step on the stage, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it's nerve-wracking. I just let my fingers take over, you know? I half the time, I'm not even looking at the thing. I'm just let the fingers do what it does. And I totally get what you're saying because you have that one person that's
Dude,
maybe paying
I
attention
think Luke
to you.
Urich is only friends with me because I went to like his St. Patty's Day thing at the Cross Keys.
I
I'm talking like a
love Luke
dec-
Urich, by the way.
Yes.
So I go to his Cross Keys thing, and like he had
Love
come
him.
to my house one time. I knew 5 people, I'm from Philadelphia originally. I apologize, but I knew no one out here. So I go to his Cross Keys thing, St. Patty's Day. I am housed, okay, having the time of my life. He's playing all these jams. When I tell you, I am front row, just like. Not being, not being obnoxious, but just being like, "Let's go!" I'm in. Everybody else is
I'm in
hammered.
the front
Bro,
row.
and I'm hammered drunk from Talladega Nights.
That was me, bro. Dude, you get 2 hams for freaking $5,
$1.
and you're still tipping 3 bones, bud. You're a baller up there with it. Anyways, so I'm hammered, and I'm up at the front. I swear, after that, thanked me like 10 times, just being like, "Thanks for coming." I'm like, "What?" Like, okay,
Dude,
we
because-
became good friends after, and he was like, "Because that whole time we vibed. I brought other people were looking at like, damn, these people are having a good time. Who cares about the St. Patty's Day beads and da 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 da?"
Yeah.
We were up there having a blast. That was Johnny the Fox
So,
days.
so you're big friends with Luke Urich, man. One of my biggest friends one of my biggest music influences right now. Do you run into him at all down there in Nashville?
Yeah, I met him a couple years ago when the Scioto Breeze dudes all moved.
Yeah,
moved down to
they
Nashville,
all
started
just took a
making
leap of
music.
faith because crazy story.
They're
Like, he
awesome.
said that he went down there one time before, and he was like, "Dude, I just didn't do it right." I said, "Yeah, no, I'm going." Didn't plan it, and then came back. Dylan Stully, I think, is in that band as well. And they're just-
Dylan too, dude. He's like one of my childhood best buddies.
I
I've
was
known
because
him
he's kind of
since-
Dylan's from around your area, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he went to Waverly High School. Yeah, he went to Waverly High School. I went to Eastern. He's a couple years older than me, but we grew up. Our dads are like best friends, and we grew up like playing paintball together. And
they went
stuff,
down
and,
there, man, and they, like I said, took
Mhm.
a leap of faith. Luke was playing with the guy that you saw go viral on TikTok that was like doing a slide with a beer bottle and then
Chili
chugging it.
dog.
Yeah,
Poor dog, yeah, chili dog.
Yeah. So then
Chili dog, man.
he just went to. I know Luke literally just got put in like a freaking penthouse in St. Pete. I felt like a dog getting to tell him where to go because I was like, dude, go here, here, and here, and it'll be amazing. Text me. I didn't think he was going to pay attention to me at all. Text me the next day, dude, you're right. I was like, yes. But I wanted to ask you, man.
Shout out Jimmy B's.
Shout out Jimmy B's, man, and shout out Joey Brooklyn's pizza, the best pizza of all time. Sorry, Giovanni's. It's just you can't touch it. But I wanted.
Giovanni's best pizza in the state.
Best pizza in the state.
I wanted to ask you, what's been your favorite place down in Nashville that you've played so far?
Yeah, so I haven't done the Broadway circuit.
Okay.
Really, I've helped out a couple times with some of my buddies, but I've never really been on the Broadway circuit. Like, so dude, Nashville has so many live music venues, and like East Nashville. Whenever y'all come down, you need to hit me up for real. I'll show
Absolutely,
you some
my
cool
man.
spots too.
Oh,
Get
I
your
hope
fill of
it's sooner
Broadway
than
and
later because
everything,
I've
too.
never been to Nashville, and I've always wanted
I
to.
haven't
see it.
either,
Real
and I've
fun
been
town.
hearing it for years.
Come on.
Now I want to
Come
ask
on,
you,
man.
Holly Miller is your sister, right?
Yeah, it's my big
So
sister.
yeah, whenever she was going through, because I got introduced to her, like I feel like a lot of people did, whenever she got sent to Hollywood through American Idol. Was there times where you're kind of like looking at her, kind of living out her dream, going through all that, and you're kind of that sometimes too, be like, man, my big sister's doing this, like, looks like fun, like I kind of want to do this too.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Yeah,
feel
dude,
like
I
she
think-
peaked and that might be the max you could do? Were you scared of that success at all?
No, me and my sister are really close. I getting to see that firsthand, like what she can do. Dude, she can sing her butt off, and
Yeah,
she's
she can.
very versatile. She's great. I'm biased, but I think she's pretty
No,
good.
listen,
But
I
she's-
remember one time that someone had just mentioned that she might sing for Ross County Idol, and I was like, that should be illegal. Like, just she won, okay? like, like she won.
Yeah, dude. That's how, I mean, yeah, getting to watch her do that. And then after she moved to Nashville, when I was probably in 8th grade, going into my freshman year, she's 4 years older than me.
That's
So,
my sister too.
yeah. So when she moved to Nashville and she started, playing, and I remember when she went to Nationwide to play and stuff, like getting to see all that, it was super cool. I'm sure that had to have influenced me at some point. Getting to see that was so cool. And
I think one of the cool
both
things to
growing
see
up.
about that, too, was like literally the whole community, like people that didn't know her
Oh, yeah.
were like, hell yeah, go
Yeah.
win the whole damn thing. Didn't know who
That's-
she was.
Yeah.
She
That's
could
the
have
best
walked.
part about this community.
She literally could have walked past me in Walmart.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have even recognized her.
Yeah,
But I was
it's
like, yeah,
crazy.
go win it.
If it was Holly Miller, you would have carried her out and be like, "Don't save your energy. We gotta get you to the car."
Dude, it's crazy. I mean, that even then, like the American Idol thing was kind of the start for her, and then the amount of doors that opened up after that is really, really incredible. She's killing it. She's a mama now, so I got a little niece.
Oh hell yeah!
And everything.
Big Uncle Vi,
She's,
so,
she's holding it down.
You're gonna be the one though teaching her all the music stuff, right?
Maybe one day.
He
One of
said,
these
yeah, once
days.
I make it big, I'll be.
Did you not hear me? He said when I was 19,
Man.
I was the same as I was. He's like, I ain't teaching no.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Moose,
yeah.
we're happy to have you
Yeah,
here
man.
on March 9th. Are you doing any shows down in Tennessee before you come up here?
Yeah, I got a couple coming up in Nashville. So bad with dates off the top of my head, but I got a couple in Nashville.
Preach to the
and,
choir, buddy. Preach to the choir. I double
man.
booked us this
Yeah.
Wednesday. I actually quadruple booked us this Wednesday. I had to cancel a few things.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, he had to
But
really,
yeah,
really think about the March 9th date, too.
Yeah, trust me. There's a lot. When I was bringing that up, I kept talking for a reason. I was like, "We're doing that March 9th." There it is.
No, I can't. That means so much to be able to come and do that. I'm very excited. Thank you
Oh
for
man,
asking me
we
to do
can't
that.
wait to have you. And honestly, like saw you at the
gonna be fun.
Majestic, saw your pictures, saw videos, and I was like, gotta have this guy. Like I don't know how we don't.
I
Come
know it's
on.
like side randomness, but I do the song of the week. I work at Adina. I do physical therapy over there, but I do the song of the week, so I get to pick one each week. You're this week's song of the
Yeah.
week. So
Hey!
we put it up. And the whole thing is I was like, sitting
Come
there, like,
on.
what should I do? And I like had been listening to you. Obviously, I want to get hip to it and things like that. Honestly, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is easy money.
Yeah.
Because the thing is like, random people will be like, oh, that's the song of the week. Let me just listen. They'll listen to 5 seconds, see if they listen to it or not. I got 20 says by the end of this week, somebody comes, so where's this guy from? Because they always ask the story.
Wow.
Because when I put it up there, it's always like, what's the side story to this song?
This song.
It's never
You know,
just a
do you
song.
remember which song it was?
To be honest with you, it's your biggest hit. Where the
Sorry-
wild things.
sorry to put you on the spot.
No, it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
Where the Wild Things
the
Are?
Wire Wild things
Yeah.
are. Yeah, number 1 on Spotify.
It's not where the wild things are. Is it where the wild things are, or just where the wild things?
Yeah, Where the Wild Things Are. There's 4 out right now. Where the Wild Things Are, Loving Me, Time That Kills, and then Happily Die.
I was about
the
to say,
most
Time
recent.
That Kills is the one that I almost like immediately like because I'm just go to Spotify, Moose Miller first song, and that one.
Can I ask like
Thanks,
the
man.
person that like filmed
Yeah.
your video? Do you the way you film that is such a way to do it right now? I just wanted to give you a little props or whoever shot that video. When you look at like the Anthony Olivers, the guys
Yeah.
that are coming up when we talked about real music, that's what you're putting out.
Mhm.
And I felt like when he shot
Yeah.
that video, dude, it was
Yeah.
real. You know what I mean? I felt
Thanks.
like oh, go on, man. Don't
Is that the? Sorry. Was that the Where the Wild Things Are
Yes,
video,
where-
or the
where-
time that?
it honestly looks just like my favorite Earthworks over here in Chillicothe. I know it's not. I saw the concrete walls and stuff.
Well, that's
I
well,
just
that's
really
why
like
we kind of. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. There's like
Dude,
a
it's
delay.
me.
and
You're
I
the
keep-
talent.
No, you have
Do
no
not
idea.
apologize
Hold
to
on, let
us.
me establish this right now. I have no ability to ask a question without 6 paragraphs. Okay?
That is so true.
There's
His
6
question is like one chapter in Harry
It's
Potter
like, here's
book.
my question, here's a chapter, and then I hope you remember the question. So you
No,
go
dude.
on. I apologize.
You're good. So I was super lucky. My roommate Caleb Cockrell and my really good friend Reid Smith. I played basketball with both of them. Met them here in Nashville. They did the video for me. They wanted to help me out and everything. So, got to give credit to them. They killed it. They did an unbelievable job. We're
The
all super
style
happy
was
with it, man.
perfect, man. Like it just really was.
Thank you.
'Cause when you're trying to put out real music, you don't want to look fake. And if
Yeah.
you're in the front of a bar, if
Appreciate that.
if there's one beer can in the video, it completely changes everything that's going on, and that didn't happen anywhere in it. And
Yeah.
I think that means a lot to
Man.
me. Again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, dude, I listened to your song 1,000 times. Like I won't tell you that, but I will tell you that, like, dude, I listened to it well over 20 now, and I very much appreciate the video, and I very much how you presented the music. So
I was
I
gonna
had to ask that question.
I was about to say,
Thank you,
Moose,
man.
if you
that
get
means a
anything out
lot
of
to me.
this, if you're ever sitting in a room by yourself again and you're like, is this worth it? Like, is my music hitting people? Dude, it is. Because since we have announced that you are the headliner, it has been nothing but high praise, man. I'm glad to see that you're living out your dream in one of the most magical cities of all time. I'm glad that we get to meet you on March 9th. You coming up for our benefit concert, man. And honestly,
I'll be in the front row.
and I'll be hammered. But
Come on, man. I'm pumped.
can't wait to see you March 9th, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on today. And are you updating new music out? Are you going to leave us a little tease? You got anything you've been working on?
Yeah, there might be I don't know.
A little something might be coming out. Well, Moose.
I posted something on Instagram and Facebook today that might have a date on it. So
Hey, go check that out.
Hey, we're going to be sharing it. If
Yes, we are.
If it is on your Instagram, it's going to be shared on the Ride the Wave.
Yes, it
Instagram.
will be.
Thank you, man. And we're in the studio right now working on my first album. So a lot of new
Hell
music.
yeah, man, let's go.
Moose Miller, my man. Well, Moose, again, we want to say thank you so much for coming on. Can't express how excited we are to get to watch you again live at the Ride the Wave benefit concert March 9th at Creekside Occasions. Can't thank you enough again for being our I don't know if you understand, our headlining act, our number one act is Moose Miller.
Man, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I will see you next.
Ladies and gentlemen, the sound of angels, Moose Miller.
And a beautiful mustache.
Moose.
Loved the mason jar.
So look,
Loved the mason jar. I hate that I'm not drinking out of one right now. I got
Of all the days
I
for
got
us
my
not
gym water
to.
bottle.
Yeah.
But like I usually have the paper. I think it's a Paper City one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I quit.
I was going to say.
I don't want to do this anymore because we're never going to get better than this episode.
We said that
This was
literally
the
last
best
week.
episode
That's
ever.
insane, dude.
Ben Hartsock
We just
is
keep
literally
busting
one of the
through
coolest
ceilings.
dudes
Yeah.
I've ever met in my life. Everything he said resonated with me to my soul.
I love how
Okay?
we were literally like, after Ben Hartsock, we were like, we will never talk to someone that cool again. Get done with Miss Miller. We just talked to the coolest person of all time. We just keep topping it, dude. It's insane.
I don't know if people feel more comfortable or if we're getting people that are comfortable talking to us. It's the conversation they're having. The stuff that they're saying is not the stuff that I hear on ESPN in a stupid conversation I have with somebody in the store. This is literally them being like, oh, no, dude, I didn't get any better after 10 years old.
Yeah.
And da-da-da. Like,
And dude, again, I can
some of
speak to that so much because this might shock you guys. Little lazy. So like when I learned to lick.
He's big, though.
Oh, so sorry. Big lazy. Okay. So whenever I learned like a cool little lick, I was like, yeah, it's like a parlor trick. You sit down, you can do that. People think you're a stud. It's like, yeah, I really can't play a chord, but I can do, you know.
Third song
I
around
can
the
hit
track.
smoke
you're
on
like,
the water.
Yeah, basically.
Guy walks up and he's like, if you just hit the D and C chord, you can do this song. And you're like, yeah, I'm just going to play Smoke on the Water.
Yeah,
again."
exactly. It's like, dude, really? No, you just have to take this finger and put it here. Yeah, no, I'm just not gonna do that.
Have you ever heard of Smoke on the Water?
No, I've heard of Water on the Smoke though.
But honestly, I just liked how real both of those conversations were.
Yeah.
Yes, you're talking to a national champion. Yes, you're talking to somebody who literally has a music deal and is making an album. But it's both of them, not for 1 second did I feel like uncomfortable asking the next question or anything like that.
I mean, Ben Hartsock, I thought the fact that Ben Hartsock knows who I am now is just life complete.
I'm going to tell you right now that if they don't cut what he talked about the transfer portal and when they were doing it on ESPN, when everyone needed to be on one side or the other, I never heard that argument.
No.
I'm not saying I'm not on the same team I already was.
Yeah.
So I can't sit here and be like I'm not a little biased.
Yeah.
But the way that he said it was the best I've ever heard in my entire life.
That's what, like you said, man. The way he explains stuff, he should have went into sales.
Dude,
I would have bought anything off that
the
guy.
NIL stuff, just the transfer portal stuff, like it wasn't spoken from the normal. He kept saying like I'm the old head talking like this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, but the way that you're saying it is not old head at all.
No, because it's like he understood.
You're an old head because you're older, but what you're saying is
and
spot the
and
fuck
it's not
on.
like, well, back in my day. It's like, no, like, it was back in my day, but it was also after my day. And then, like, years to come, like, that's just how football was. But getting SVC podcast, really haven't talked about the SVC at all.
So let me
let's
tell you
get
this,
into
though.
it.
We did get in. We got the SBC.
Yeah, we
title.
did. With the national title.
I heard we had a baller in Moose Miller as well.
Yeah, we did. He went
Played-
to Eastern. Dude,
I know it's not SBC. but we got a
Whenever
baller.
she told me he had a scholarship to basketball, I was like, dude, I was like, I played football, basketball, baseball, piano, blah, blah. Didn't get crap. This guy just plays anything. He's like the best at it.
Your mustache is not thick enough.
Dude, his mustache is amazing. Amazing.
I love it.
Want to get into so the tournament draw came out. Something fun that we're gonna do here on the Ride the Wave show. It's bracket time, baby. We got some brackets that we're gonna fill out. Andy, where are they? You're pointing at something? Is it in this folder?
Yeah, it's in the yellow folder right
Cool.
Andy, shout
Whoops.
getting these ready as well.
Yep, Andy printed out these amazing brackets for us. We're gonna fill these out, post our results on our Instagram, our Facebook, and our Twitter. So follow our brackets, see who gets it right, or I guess the most right. We're trying to make our most best way version of NCAA March Madness. This will be something that we'll be
Winner
doing from
gets
years
to call
to come.
the other two losers.
Now, comment in our comment section. Send us messages on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. What should the loser have to do, and what should the winner get? Haven't figured that out yet. One, to get you guys more involved. Again, if you're on our Patreon, it's only $2 a month. That's the number one place that we're going to look first. Now, not saying we're immediately going to take it from there, but that is the first place that we go to look and kind of honor that a little bit more. And there's a free membership as well. We will put, is it already down there? If you look at the link below the video, the Patreon is right there. Again, if you don't want to pay, there is a free option there, and then there's $2 option. There's different levels, and that's the first place we go to look. So go there. Tell us what the loser should do. Tell us what the winner should do. And again, if you don't have our Patreon, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, message us, comment under one of our posts what we should do. We're kind of taking fields, say, probably till, let's say, Friday. Sound good?
Yeah,
so,
Friday.
let us know by Friday so that we can know. And whoever we pick, like if we pick yours, we will shout you out. Make sure that people know it came from you.
You want to come on the show?
Yeah.
They're on the show.
Yo, hey,
hell.
if
I
we,
just made that happen.
we'll do you one better. If we pick yours, we'll let you enter a bracket. How about that? Because now
You can be
now
a
you're
winner.
talking.
because if you lose and you chose that, well, you have to honor it because you chose it. So again, Patreon's the best way, but if not, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, make sure you're getting on there. But things I want to talk about in the SVC.
Text messages don't count as well. We have a lot of coaches that are going to be giving our own
if you
thing.
tweet at us, just put hashtag Ride the Wave So or at us. That's
Do
another good
both.
way. Yes, Adam, I want to talk to you about this next one though, because there was a big upset in the SVC on Friday.
Yeah.
and I'm talking about those Bearcats over those Pioneers. I know you had to be happy about that one. Watching that game, Payne Valley is actually down by I think 6 or 8 with about 2 to 2.5 minutes to go. Clawed back in that one to get a win. Do you think that's enough? Now they got a big test against Portsmouth.
It's momentum, baby. They're coming back. Who's hot?
Sectional titles?
It's a bad day to be a Portsmouth fan. Coming, what is it? February 15th. I had the date. I had it right, dude. It's the 19th.
Date
Okay.
doesn't matter. It's always a bad.
It don't matter. We suck at the dates. March 9th, be there. That's the only date I know.
It's a bad day to be
Moose
a
Miller.
Portsmouth Trojan on the. What day is it?
Yeah.
Moose Miller.
Yeah, I don't know what day it is.
my go-to when I
When they're
don't know
playing the
dates.
Bearcats, it's gonna be a bad day.
Okay, so I want to get you guys now. I know we haven't got a lot of time to look over the bracket. I know you guys have really kind of just glanced at it. I want to know what your guys' kind of like hot takes might be. I have a couple.
Best 10 seed in the world, Vinton County Vikings.
Yeah, so I was actually about to say watch out for the Vikings, but I want to say hot take. The winner of the Westfall Southeastern matchup wins the sectional and possibly goes to the district final. Don't want to stamp a win of the district final, but I think the winner of that one ends up winning 3 games at least in the tournament, man.
Hot take here for me. Uniota girls win some games.
Yeah, very hot take that the Union girls are going to win some games in the tournament. Dude, oh my God, I'm sorry. This might be super disrespectful, but I saw someone post on Facebook the bracket. It was like,
It cracked me
it
up.
said, Union don't play until February 28th. And I looked, that was a district title game.
Because when you were telling me this at first, you were like, I was like, whoa, why such a long pause between you playing? I looked at the schedule, it's like, oh, they're just going ahead and say they're not playing the first 3 games.
And again, really try not to throw any disrespect, but that was just way too funny not to share. But yeah, I definitely think the winner of that, because I think Westfall is a dark horse right now. I think they had a good success last year. I think they know how to play in the tournament, so that's why I think they should go. But I feel like Southeastern's been well overlooked this year, and I think if they get a win against an in-conference rival to then win they'll go into that sectional title game feeling super confident, and then go on a good run there. I think Uniota wins a sectional. They got a tough district, and I just don't want to talk about it at all because I feel like it's a true 50-50, and everybody's like, well, no shit, every game is. But it really is some teams in there. It's just like, man, that is a gauntlet of a district title. And the biggest thing that we need to remember is the districts are finally back in the convo, baby. The districts are finally back in the convo where they belong, where magic happens. Man, we were talking about this, and I totally see. I don't know what side you're on here, so I don't want to stamp you to it. But I totally see both sides here, where some people are like, hey, well, the convo was in the regionals, kind of means more, Sweet 16, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, cool. But when you got little schools like, and I'll throw Paint Valley in there. We got little schools like Paint Valley, Huntington, blah, blah.
It means more now to get to the convo, but I hate that it's just regionals.
Right. Well, now it's back in the districts this year. Stop to worry about it. But, yeah, because, like, dude, when I was a sophomore, junior, senior, and you walk in during the summertime for, like, an open gym, and you go down to your locker, there's one thing being put up in your locker, and it was a picture of the convo. You know what I mean? Because that's what it meant. The convo, a sectional title, everything like that. And sure, this might sound like the easy way out, but like, dude, it's there's a reason that Chillicothe's boys state title team was the last state title team from around here. You know what I mean? It's just like we don't have schools that recruit. We don't have schools that like are begging players to come here. We are truly I'm not even leveling like keeping this to just the SVC. I'm talking TVC, FAC, SOC. We are true schools that Ben, I feel like, was talking about where you go there in kindergarten, you graduate a senior.
A couple of those FOC, SOC, like they jumped a bunch of conferences. So
yeah.
A lot of them, them maybe not so much.
Well, I don't want to seek too much on the TVC and SOC because I don't know them, but
hey, TVC, SVC, I feel are
I don't know half of these acronyms.
They're kind of Tri-Valley Conference, Scioto Valley Conference.
Yeah, but like
the Valleys, they're good at keeping straight up.
Yeah,
every now and then you have some crossover.
And like the convo, man, like you go talk to people because I'm pretty sure they've been playing in the convo since like late '80s, early '90s, right? So you go back and talk to people. It's not like in the sectional game it was this, and in the district it was in the convo because it was just a magical
you guys have
place.
to travel to get there? It's like, what?
Well, being in Vinton County, it was only like 20 minutes away from Vinton County.
But like,
how far is it from here?
About an hour. But
yeah.
it was the whole experience.
Everybody always said we went up to the convo to see.
Yeah,
you guys.
people
so
really don't
like
know directions. I'll tell you.
It's really over.
I've heard
but
people.
They always said like it was like a travel thing. Like I felt like when people say it, it's like they speak about it like it's omnipresent being. Like we went up there, like
dude.
We had to go to the convo. And
Here's
the
the crazy
convo
thing.
was like, if you mean the convo. That's
I've heard
VIP.
people from Paint Valley say that. Some of the same people say we went up to, down to, over to, and left to the
over
convo.
Over to is the only correct.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was trying to say.
I guess my biggest thing is that people always like felt like they went with a group of people. You know what I mean?
Because
it was always like,
that's what the
convo
convo was, man. Like, so what the great thing about the convo, like, and obviously I can only speak on my experiences because I didn't go to other schools during convo times, but like. The convo is great, man, because like you have to leave a little bit earlier in the school day, right? You have to leave at like 3:00 to get down there in time for the game.
That's
and then
ridiculous.
other schools, you have to like other students get on a bus, like a pep rally bus, ride down together. Like, and it's not like, hey, load on the bus, sit there, go down. Like Pay Valley made it let me say this, as fun as a high school can make riding on a bus legally. That they did that, you know what I mean? And like I heard so many great stories and funny stories because like they were creating memories. Now, can't say a lot of those stories, but like that's what high school's about, and I feel like that's what Ben was saying, man. So, just creating memories with your best friends.
We're finding the men that camped out in that tent.
Yeah.
And we're asking, through our time here, whether we got to find the cut right uncle or whatever it was. We got to ask him
gotta
about
find
that night.
Well, we were just talking to somebody the other day from Vinton County, talking about that 2008 team that ended up losing to the state champion Cavaliers. Well, when they played Greenfield McLean, the convo was sold out.
Literally sold out.
Everybody in the county of Vinton County was at the convo.
Dude,
like it was.
it's
a county.
That
thing.
was a game where like you lived in Cleveland and you're like, that Sherlock Coffee Vinton County game, I'm going to like people around the state knew about that game because, like we said in that car the other day, we really think the winner of that game was going to win the title that year of state because that Vinton County team, you can speak on a lot more than me, was loaded.
The likes of like you had Dustin Guthrie, Jared Albright, you had Jake.
And Combs
Prater.
was the coach too, right?
No,
So you have a
yeah.
legendary Combs coach, yeah. So it's like against a legendary Kello coach, and the thing that, again, I'm an outsider looking in, but the staple of Vinton County to me is, man, you look at like these big games. It's Coach Combs because like there's times that they like a couple years ago they were playing Union in a district title. Combs is there again, and I feel like is it Knight that they have or Kite?
Yeah, he was our assistant.
I
coach
feel like
through
he's
all
the
of
next Combs, and it's what we were saying with
he
Ben.
was groomed by Combs.
It's what we were saying with Ben, and what you said about Jeff Miller is when you're in third grade, you know when I get to high school, that's my coach. It's easier to stay and grow and develop.
The fact that Combs averaged 22 wins is just a testament to him making Vinton County. They were convo kings for the longest time. Cause like, it's like, oh, we didn't go to the convo. Bus season, L season.
Yeah.
Like, what are you guys doing out there? Come, Ryan Deck, get him out.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean? It's like,
we made the convo 1 year, my junior year. My senior year, right? People are walking up to Shoe and football saying, hey, what date's the convo? When we go? And Shoe's like, we have to win games first to get there. Like, we don't just show up.
You don't just show up.
And play in the convo. Yeah. So, again, but yeah, make sure you're following along with our bracket. Super glad that we're going to be at the convo to watch those games. Now, before we get into the draft, last thing on basketball. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be like, damn, ESPN on Wednesday. There's been big games. I would text you right now, but I was in such a hurry. Didn't even come in with – the whole time we were talking to Ben Hartsock, I was trying to look at you guys discreetly and say, I don't know what time it is.
I said – you'll see. I do this. 6:40.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
As soon as you didn't, I was like,
But Paint Valley, they played Huntington tonight. And I want to say Adina played Union in the semifinals for the junior high game. On Wednesday, we're going to be there, and we're going to cover everything. So stay tuned. Make sure you tune in Wednesday.
You want a sideline interview? Stick your finger up in the air and say, I would like an interview.
You want to see what maybe the bus ride was like over there? Maybe what the locker rooms are like? What it was going to be like? You're going to see a lot of inside access that you just don't see anywhere else. Maybe on ESPN. So Wednesday, make sure that you're tuning in for that.
It's not on ESPN at all.
No, what's it on? I think it's on like Ride the Wave Show. It's way better than ESPN. Yeah, make sure you tune in for that. It should be a good game, whoever it is, because, man, the SVC in junior high this year has been elite. Now, getting on to our draft. I think we got a good one today, folks. I had a very good list after I told you guys to make sure you have a list. Guess where our list is? On my phone.
Oh,
let's also.
My phone is in the car.
Let's also say this. I was at work when you told me to have a list ready.
Yeah, me too. All right, so going with order.
I was at the gym.
We were supposed to have 10. I have 3.
Yeah, going with the order, I have no idea what it is, so I'm just going to say it's Adam, Tony, me. Does that sound cool?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, Adam, we'll start with you. Are we going 5 rounds?
Yeah, well, you said 10 originally. I was cool with 7, but 5's fine.
5, Tony? Think we should go 5, 6?
5's fine.
5? Okay, so Adam, we're going to start with you. What's your first overall pick?
First overall pick is going to be a 30.
Oh, wait, we haven't told him what the draft is. We are drafting our favorite sports documentaries.
No, just favorite documentaries.
Oh, yeah, need that. T-Mac got my phone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was just documentaries. It wasn't just sports.
Yes, yes. So favorite documentary films like, for example, like a 30 for 30, the Bohemian Rhapsody, like a history documentary, so anything that's a documentary
like a
movie.
biopic.
Yeah.
Whether it's like an actual like cinematic version of it or if it's like documentary series style.
Yes, so that's what we're drafting today. Adam, you are first on the clock, my man.
I'm going 30 for 30, Rand University.
Wow. Man, I don't know how I didn't even think of that.
That's what I thought
That's
you
a
was going to be
great
your
pick.
first one.
No,
Dude,
that's a
when
great
it
pick.
wasn't the
Dude,
other one?
in that specific one, when Randy Moss talks about going against Kevin Garnett in like a pre-pro-am or whatever,
Yeah, it was
and
the
he's
summer
like,
league.
and he's like, I got worked. He was like, on the football field, I was an absolute dog.
No, well, that's the thing. In that 30 for 30, it talks about how Randy was basketball player of the year for West Virginia. Jason Williams, White Chocolate, an NBA player, was on his team. That was his point guard. And he still won. I think he was 2 times
He said
West
that
Virginia
I felt
Mr.
good about
Basketball.
myself. I went and saw KG, and I realized I was not him.
Yeah. But I mean, he could
I
have
was like,
definitely.
bro, and you like
He could have
literally.
definitely been like a small forward in the
Oh,
league.
no,
but
he could have
wouldn't-
been.
He wouldn't have been Randy Moss. In the
Yeah,
league.
exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's what he looked at. He's like, dude, I'm an absolute animal.
And I love too, like, because honestly, when I was about to go watch that, I was like, cool, I'm just going to learn about Randy Moss in the NFL. No, it was
I
like,
did my senior report on Randy Moss. I got a lot of my work from Rand University.
yeah. So great film. Again, one, there's going to be some spoilers possibly, and two, if you haven't watched any of these, damn it, go watch them. They're good.
Yeah.
All right, so Tony, you're up after Adam picks Rand University for his first overall pick.
Your
So
water's-
I'm usually
your
in
water's
shambles
suffering.
when I make my picks, and I'm kind of in shambles now only because I don't know what episode it is, but it is a documentary series called Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix. And I
Oh,
believe it's
okay.
episode 2, but he touches on what? The Chillicothe burial mounds.
Oh, no.
Oh, so yeah,
Okay?
obviously.
I very much appreciate it. He actually wasn't allowed in. So in that documentary, he's sitting right over here, right by the prisons at the front gate, saying, I'm not allowed to come in here and film at all because I was not allowed to. He went up to Serpent Mounds. And
That's insane, really. I need to go watch it. I've never even.
yeah, and he talks about it. He talks about
Okay.
Serpent Mound and where that is. And honestly, if you're from this area and you've heard of Serpent Mound, when you hear him describe it and what each hump and mound and each piece means of it and how it matches up astrologically, it's dope.
Okay, so I think when I say my 101, you're going to be like, makes sense. Because it is also a 30 for 30. Catholics versus convicts.
Okay.
Because,
Well, earlier when you were talking to Ben, I kind of figured, I was like, that's probably what it's going to be. It's probably
Yeah,
either going to be
because-
Catholics versus conflicts or the U. And then you were like, I grew up Notre Dame. I hate the U. I was like, it's not going to be the U.
yeah, because like I hated like listening to my dad talk about it with like my uncle and like, can't say my grandpa, 53 cursed. But anyways, like talking to like other people around there, man, it's kind of like, to me, I never understood why we hated Miami because I didn't grow up Notre Dame playing Miami. So whenever I got to watch that, it was
Eye-opening.
it was eye-opening, and two, how it wasn't really centered around the game. It was around the guy that made the shirts about that, and how he actually got kicked off Notre Dame. He literally worked his entire life to make the Notre Dame basketball team. Senior year, finally gets told he can be a walk-on, and then like a day later, I think, gets kicked off because they found out he's the one that made these illegal shirts because they weren't trademarked. That was the big thing, is that they're just not trademarked. So he gets kicked out of that. Number 2 for me, I guess I'm going to say recency bias, but like I don't know because it wasn't really that recent. You guys tell me. Straight Out Compton. That was one of the first biopic documentary movies I've ever watched in that fashion that made me just absolutely fall.
Like the cinematic fashion.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's a movie as opposed to just this is what we did. And then
Yeah,
clips of
it was just reenacted how they did. And it was the first one that made me. I didn't really know NWA before that. And after that, I got into NWA.
I knew
listened
about
to
him
the
a
music.
little bit.
Yeah.
And then that made me like absolutely love him.
Yeah, so I'm going to do Straight Out Compton for my second one. And just, dude, the absolute marketing genius after that, Straight Out of Anything pretty much, like, was amazing. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Catholics versus Convicts, then Straight Out of Compton. Tony, you got Ancient Apocalypse and...
Was it back to me?
Yeah, it's back to you because you're.
We got to stop doing snake. We should just the snakes.
Yes, Snake. Literally
Slippery
snake.
One of my favorite straight out ofs is a Vinton County shirt, straight out of Convo.
Straight Out Compton, I like it.
Like
So
that's-
I do 1 or 2.
you would
got
get
one.
one because you're in the middles.
I want to be a dick so bad.
Well, do it.
I'll take Magic Trip for the Grateful Dead.
cool.
You can do the Further Bus documentary. There's like
Nope.
6.
Yeah,
of them.
I was about to say the great thing about Grateful Dead documentaries is I had 6.
There's literally 12.
I was like,
I like
I'm
Magic
prepared
Trip.
for
It's
you
the first
guys
one
to be assholes and just pick Grateful
Well, I
Dead.
didn't. It was tough because to me the bus meant a lot because I saw the bus and that helped me get into it.
Yeah.
Because I heard Casey Jones and I'm like, this is not me.
That's my
this-
favorite Dead song.
This is
Yeah.
me. But the thing is, I'm listening at the time. I'm like 11 or 12 years old, so I'm listening to "Life in the Fast Lane" by the Eagles. I'm getting
Yeah.
into classic rock. I'm hearing sick riffs.
Yeah.
And then I'm hearing Casey Jones, and I'm like, this is boring.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, but I have to like the Dead. So I'm
Yeah.
finding my own stuff. That's where I find Easy Wind and
Yeah.
all my real jams.
I
Feel
can't-
Like a
yep.
Stranger. Like I found my music, but I was like, why is the Grateful Dead only known for Casey Jones? So I did my deep thing. I learned about the Further Bus. I did a lot of reading on it. Magic Trip, I think, was the first one that came out. That's why.
If you don't like the Grateful Dead music, man, you got to at least like their story. There's enough documentaries for you
No,
to go.
you haven't listened to enough.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say about him is
There's a Grateful Dead song for everybody.
you can listen to Fish, you can listen to these other bands, Widespread Panic, these people that say, oh, well, they made a song for every genre of music. Okay, well, did they actually go into other genres of music and then play those songs?
Yeah.
And then come back and make songs in that genre? No,
Yeah.
they didn't do that. Well, that's what the Grateful Dead did. Like some of those
I'll
albums.
stand by it, and I have to give
Dude, the
Maria.
After Midnight album?
I have to give Maria Hicks her shout out, her dues for this. She's the one that told me that. She said, if you really think about it, the Grateful Dead are the most American thing that there really ever is. All right, Adam, I'm going to go for you. You have Rand University. You have your second and your third pick here.
All right, so it's gonna seem like I only mess with sports, but like I'm going for another 30 for 30. So this one is like it's near and dear to my heart because if you know anything about me, you know like my relationship with my mom and everything like that. It's gonna be Unguarded, the Chris Herron story.
Oh, good
It's
one.
a phenomenal 30 for 30. It's about a guy who grew up in Boston. He goes to UMass,
Yeah.
into the drugs. Like he walks in, first thing he sees at Boston is his roommate doing cocaine. You know,
Cocaine.
like a serious.
You're drinking
drug.
a lot of Coca-Cola.
Breaks his hand, ends up getting addicted
No,
to drugs,
cocaine is
kicked
the
out of
evolution of cane
kicked out of
from
it wasn't UMass, it was Boston College. Kicked
Yeah.
out of Boston College, goes over to Fresno State, gets himself right over there, you know, has his struggles and like ends up falling out of the NBA because of his drug problem. Gets back to where he's actually coaching basketball. He's around the game. He's been sober for so long. He's a huge inspiration. Love his story. So Unguarded, 30 for 30. That is my second pick.
All right, so your third?
Kind of on the same line. It's a Vice 30 for 30. It's a Vice documentary called Painkillers. It's just about the opioid epidemic in the United States as a whole.
Okay.
What a doozy.
Did you
Yeah.
did you take away yours?
No.
Because we
but
don't
I
have a
just-
lot of that on
it's
the
No,
show
I
yet.
sucked. I told you I was at work. I looked at nothing.
So like that's crazy. I'm at the gym and I hear an ad for it, and I was like, I forgot all about all these documentaries that Vice came out with.
Yeah.
And Painkillers is one of my favorite ones. just
Painkiller,
because
you
that's-
want the one thing about that is the dude who came out was on the front of Time magazine saying that these pills are a miracle drug and they are non-addictive, had a job from a major pharmaceutical company within 2 years of that Time magazine cover.
Yep.
Yeah. In
Oh, let me tell you,
Insane.
it's not addictive. Then go work for the company that it's addictive for, and then make $200 million.
And then be a
dollars.
pharmaceutical
Yeah.
sales rep pushing.
That's
these
in the
drugs you're
documentary. Go
addicted
check
to.
it
Yeah,
out. It's
yeah.
actually
All right,
Great
so-
documentary. Great.
Adam, you got Rand University, Unguarded, and Painkillers. Tony, you have Ancient Apocalypse, Magic Trip, and what's your next
I'm
one?
going to do Elway to Marina.
Oh,
That's
oh
a great
man.
one. That is a great.
So
one.
Because it's
that-
so,
knew it
you
was
learn
coming off the
so
board.
much.
Yeah.
You learn so much about the intricacies of drafts and people talk.
I,
Like, dude, that was so
it's not on
sick.
my list. I knew I wasn't gonna get it. I was like,
Yeah.
these are this. I want.
There
at
were a
least-
couple.
I want to go 1, 2, 3. I got my 1, 2, 3, and then I was like, I'm not getting that way to Marino.
Yeah.
I'm not getting it.
Dude, it's just it gives you the best insight.
I actually
Yeah.
had 2 lists because my first
And
list was
everybody
if you
hated
got
Elway.
first pick.
We're
I
gonna
thought
have to
you'd
have
take
another
Marino.
one of these drafts.
Well, you heard about Elway, and he's talking about like why he went to sign with the Yankees instead of playing football and da da da.
That's a
Like
big old
I don't know
F
when
you.
you hear it, like when you're growing up. I didn't see Elway get drafted, but I did see Elway in '98. That was the first Super Bowl I remember, and
So did
them just kind of talking
so did a
shit.
guy named Garen Varus.
I was 1.
Talking a little bit of shit, you know what I mean? And you look at it and you're like, why were they doing that? And you look back and you're like, oh, I understand it a little bit better than I did before.
So with my next one, I'm going to take it first because I probably should have taken it first,
do
but
it.
I was actually kind of
Two
afraid
more.
of straight out Compton going out there. So I'm going to go with A Long Strange Trip. It is actually on Netflix. It is, in
I
my
wonder what that's.
and I was gonna say, in my opinion, it is the best Grateful Dead documentary that there is. It follows the life of Bob Weir, but like not just. It's cool because it follows the life of Bob Weir, but branches out about other aspects of the Grateful Dead. And for me, it was right in the peak of me becoming a Deadhead, liking the Dead without like, oh, my dad listens to Dead, so I want to listen to the Dead. And like right in the middle of that, this documentary came out on Netflix, man, and it just really it didn't just explain to me the Dead, why the Dead are the way they are, what their fans are like, blah blah blah. It really made me understand my dad because my dad was one of those people. He followed the Dead from, I'm pretty sure, like 89 to like 92 or somewhere in that gap, and lived just like these people.
Did he stop in Philly? He's been following that till 92.
Yeah, no, he did. Like,
did he impregnate a woman in Philadelphia and then just quit his
he
career?
might be
'Cause
your
you
dad.
might be my brother.
Because no, my dad literally was one of the guys. Like, 'cause it was his college years. So whatever the 4 years he was in college. So that's why I don't know what years it was. But he would literally semester out. I'm not gonna lie, my dad was a spoiled little rich boy because my grandma had money. He would get $1,000. Him and his buddy would get in a van and he would go out and follow him to every single show, selling T-shirts, selling water bottles, just
Merchandise.
yeah. And I learned about all of that.
Shakedown Street, baby.
I learned about all of that, and okay, I'm sorry, I'm telling the story. I don't care. It's my podcast. I'm doing it. So the best trip story about my dad is him and his buddy break down in Arizona. Right? I mean, car blows up. They're like, "Fuck it, we're just gonna keep on walking." Well,
Write a note that says if you get
Yeah.
it to work, take it.
yeah,
Yours.
puts it on the windshield wiper. Says you find it, take it, don't want it. But mind you, again, this is like early '90s, way different world, right? And this is a Grateful Dead tour. So he said they get to walking. They honestly were only walking like 10 or 15 minutes. But my dad was like, "I'm a fat ass," so it felt like we were walking for days. And he was like, "We see what only could be described as the most hippie van I've ever seen pull up. It was one of those old school Volkswagen vans, right?" And he's like, me and my buddy could kind of like tell, okay, we just saw this at the last Dead show. Maybe, hopefully, they'll remember us something, right? So they flag it down. I'm sure they're wearing Dead gear, so those guys kind of understand. They pull over. My dad and the buddy go up to him like, "Hey, man, car just broke down. Like, trying to get to, if you take me to the Philly show, the Cleveland show, and the Indianapolis show. When we get to Indianapolis, I'll give you a place to stay. If they don't have my own car, then you're free to go. You go on your way." And the guys looked my dad and his buddy straight in their face and said, "Well, what's in it for us?" And my dad,
Put out
my
a sheet
dad's
of
buddy, no,
merchandise.
my dad's buddy pulls out like a huge sack of weed and says, "I got a pound of weed." And my dad says, "I have 10 sheets of acid." And these hippies said, "Get on in." It's like they just picked up 2 angels on the side of the road. And that's how he made his way back to Indianapolis.
Okay, for the people that don't know drugs,
Yeah.
we'll just tell you that that's probably $25,000
Dollars that they
worth of
just
things.
had chilling, okay? And my dad's dead, so he can't go to prison for it anymore.
We can also sit here and it's like, obviously, we're not on multiple sheets of acid.
Yeah, like, it's
But that
pretty-
being said, that's like showing a briefcase of money being
Yeah.
like, yeah, we don't have anything for you,
but this. So that's my favorite dad story to tell whenever they're on, whenever I'm talking about the Grateful Dead. So now to get to my next documentary, and man, the last 2 is really where it started to get blurry for me. I didn't know where to go, but I had to go with another 30 for 30. I honestly think it might have been the first 30 for 30, and Andy will actually appreciate this one the most, and it has to be the Fab Five. I think that
that's
is
a
the
great
best.
one.
That
That
might
is-
be one of the best
That's
sports
the first one I've seen. I'm pretty
Yeah,
So
sure.
hold
it's the
on.
first one I ever seen.
Do you feel like you
A
liked
bitch.
it? Do you feel like
The
you
best line in the whole thing.
Do you feel like you liked it? Okay, I'll tell you why I liked it. I guess you
Okay.
probably don't feel the same way, but I thought they were better than they were. I watched that Fab Five and I was like, wait, they weren't super dope. They were losers.
So that
Like,
is
I'm
one
not
thing.
even going on to Michigan. Like,
yeah, I'm
I
not.
kinda sat
Yeah,
there
not
for
talking
some
about.
reason.
I definitely thought they won a title. I was.
For some reason, to me, I'm like, bro, they only. I thought
I
they
was
won
shocked
like
by
one
that.
title, and the other 3 years they didn't, and that's why they were like.
That
down
was one
there.
thing I was
But
shocked.
to never.
No.
dude, they barely got a Final Four banner. I
This
was
is
like, what
why.
the f-
This is why I like that movie for 2 reasons. One, the line I just said to you is icon.
What do you think of Christian Laettner?
Blah blah. No, it was Grant. It was
Overrated?
Grant Hill.
A bitch.
Yeah.
It says overrated
Yeah.
first.
And then
Dude says pretty boy first. And
Yeah.
then it comes back to him. And he's like, I didn't get out.
he's
bitch.
dude. He's second guessing it too. He's like looking up at the camera like a bitch.
And Christian Laettner again.
And
laughed his
And two, Jalen Rose. Dude, I fell in love with Jalen Rose in that documentary. Like, I had seen him on TV. The only thing I knew about Jalen Rose is he couldn't play defense because Kobe dropped 81
He
on
loved
him.
Rip Hamilton, so he's
Yeah.
right.
I love how Kobe trolled him one last time.
With that commercial?
No, with the statue.
Yeah!
Just
Oh,
came out.
yes, he did. I
Like-
forgot about that.
He was at that point. He might as well have been pointing at
Yeah,
Jalen.
right.
Rose.
So you have to go with the Fab Five because, again, one, I think it's one of the best sports documentaries, like,
it is.
produced, man.
Oh,
and
so well done.
and two, I'm pretty sure it's like the first 30 for 30 that there ever was. Can't really say that for sure because I feel like they came out like three
They
in
had,
3
like-
days.
Yeah, they had like Tupac and Tyson and stuff. was
Yeah,
out real
but
early,
it's just kind of
which was super dope. If you haven't seen Tupac and Tyson, that should be
yeah,
on this
and it
list.
kind of just blurs like whenever they came into. So that's gonna
you
be
seen
my
that?
fourth. Sorry for that long-winded one. I just had to get that dad story in there. Thanks, Dad. And then I'll go with you, Adam. You're on your fourth one. You have Rand
Wait, I thought it
Universe. Oh, yeah, Tony. Sorry, Tony.
I
You
go
got
twice
Ancient
or once?
Apocalypse, Magic Trip, Elway to Marino, and
Do I go twice or once?
once.
Nobody's gonna pick this. I'll-
Okay, hold on,
I'll
hold
take-
on. I gotta add. Never mind. Go. I'm just not gonna pick this one, and I'll talk about it after the draft. So go.
Into the Wild. It's a movie
Okay.
about the gentleman that went to Alaska and tried to survive on his own.
No,
Have
that's
you-
called Castaway.
Have you gotten 5?
No, I have one more.
Okay.
And I'm not going to pick the one I want to pick because I think it's breaking the rules, and then we'll just talk about it, and I might pick it next time. But, yeah, so Into the Wild, what'd you say it was about?
Have you not seen it?
I don't think I've ever
Bro,
seen that.
So I will say, out of all the things that we talked about, this is the one that I say you need to watch.
Okay.
It's about a dude. He went to Princeton. He was from an affluent family. Was like up and coming, really smart person. He was just upset with society, and he was just kind of like,
Yeah.
I need to get away. So he went up and he pretty much found an old bus in the middle of Alaska and was just living there. But he documented his time there,
Oh, that's dope.
and he ended up. I don't want to. Yep.
Watch
okay.
it.
All right.
It's-
watch
it's-
it.
it's really-
It's so good. He doesn't even want to spoil it. So I'll go watch
wanna
it.
know the
Do you
ending?
know? Hey, do you know where? What streaming platform it might be on? Did you watch it on
Damn,
stream?
dude, it's a
or-
major movie. I'm telling you, like it's
All right,
out there
All
somewhere.
right.
But
So Adam, you got your last 2 picks. You have Rand University, Unguarded, Painkillers, and your last 2.
So I'm going to start off with an honorable mention. I'm not picking this one. It's just one that I.
Wait for that till the end of the draft.
Well, I was just going to let you guys use it if you want.
No, because I got a couple
Nah.
too. Yeah, I don't want to steal it from you. I don't want to steal your.
Well, I'm
good
not
brain.
picking it.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want to
Yeah.
steal your good brain and say I came up with it. So
Oh, okay.
save it for after the draft.
That works. I'm just going to go with our planet, like any of the our planets, like our blue planet. Like
Okay.
Those, like that,
And he's not lying. Like I have watched him watch these. Like he gets into it. Like
yeah,
he
no,
likes
like
it.
there's like, yeah. So like you got like,
MVD agrees.
our blue planet. Some of my favorite ones because it's all about the ocean, something that we just need to explore more.
Yep.
Our planet, our green planet, life on our planet, any of them,
Okay.
phenomenal.
And
Phenomenal.
your 5th pick.
And then my 5th pick, I have to look up the actual name of it because I just have it in here as not the. It's a 30 for 30. Shocker,
Surprise!
shocker. It's called No Crossover. The Allen Iverson.
Oh
story.
yeah.
It's.
What I loved the most
I
about
take it
that
back.
one is actually
that was the very first one I ever watched. Was No Crossover.
the one I
Allen
liked the most
Iverson
about that
story.
one is like that was the first time I really got to actually know what happened in that bowling alley
Yeah.
fight. All I knew is that he got a fight in a bowling alley, and that pretty much
So,
made
yeah,
him look
for
like
me,
a
it
terrible
went No
person. That was around
Crossover,
where you were growing up, though,
the
right?
Chris Herron one, and then I watched the Fab Five.
That- Tony, that's what kind of around where you were growing up.
So I actually got both ends of this story because I had a friend growing up in Hampton Roads, which is where he's from at the time. Because I went to college in Virginia, that's where he's from. Hampton Roads is where my buddy was from, so on and so forth. So I got to see it from my angle, him coming in after Georgetown, being like, "Oh, dude, the guy already got screwed in high school.
Yeah.
He goes to Georgetown, gets a handout. His post-draft interview did not look good for Georgetown.
Yeah.
You're saying he went to your school for a year, and this
Yeah.
is the interview again?
Yeah.
So it didn't look good for Georgetown. He's coming in. My dad All right, we're giving out stories about the dads. Here we go.
Yeah.
My dad used to throw a Wawa coffee cup into Allen Iverson's yard every morning for 3 years. Okay? He drove past.
My dad,
yeah, we're getting
my dad was
stories.
just giving out free acid.
So, you got to realize his son is also sitting in the driveway with a tore up sock put on his fucking arm because I want to be AI. And you're like, why are you wearing a sock on your arm? Why'd you cut a sock? Oh, Dad, you didn't buy me an arm sleeve, so I have to fake it in the driveway.
That is so awesome.
So, that being said,
This is some of the intensity we were talking
So
about
this is-
earlier that Ben Hartsock was talking about.
this is what we're, and what I'm getting at is more of he came in and he was immediately painted as this picture. And when you see that documentary, it shows a lot of a different thing, dude. He loved his team. He loved basketball. He didn't throw the chair in the bowling alley.
No.
And it's like, dude, to be back-to-back state champions in football and basketball, be the
and
star player
on
on both
yeah,
teams.
on both teams.
Like, it was crazy to me because I got to see so many angles. And when it happened in Hampton Roads, he was
The weird thing about that little area that they're from, Michael Vick also from that area.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. It's just super athletic, crazy.
Yeah.
Dude.
So Tony, you got
Sorry-
one more
sorry,
pick.
Jamaica.
You have Ancient Apocalypse, Magic Trip, L.A. to Marino, Into the Wild, and
If anybody listens to this, I just want one person to be enlightened. The DMT spirit molecule. Learn it. People will be like, "Oh man, people smoke DMT. It's a drug." Da da da. DMT is something that's released in your brain, and you should see when it is, why it is, and how people used to use it in previous times.
All right.
Phenomenal.
Well, with my last one, I think I'm just going to go ahead and pick it, and you guys just tell me if it's not allowed, because literally was going to be my 101 in this whole, 102. And this whole draft, I've kind
The
of
more
going
he
back and
talks, the
forth.
more I want to say no immediately.
Remember the Titans. Does
No,
that? Yeah, because that's like more Disneyed up, but it's based on true events.
Yeah.
No, that's
But
radio.
so you could say the
So-
same thing about Straight Outta Compton not technically being a documentary. It's a biopic.
Every
about what
one
happened.
of those people from NWA were involved in that.
Yeah.
That's where I think those ones are different, like Bohemian Rhapsody and stuff like that. So that's why I just say remember the Titans. I want to see where
I think it falls under too much of a movie as opposed to it's
That's
a movie
what I was
based on
thinking.
true events. Because
Okay.
how is it true that what's his face was sitting in the hospital? That's my brother, Alice. Let him
Yeah.
in. Like, or
see,
is
I
that,
don't.
like, all
and
movied
the
up?
problem is like
I
we don't
do
really know.
I do know that guy that was in the hospital he was in the like the
That stuff is
Paralympics.
real.
He
Yeah,
was
that
in- he was in
and the
Paralympics,
merging
you
of
know.
the two schools
Yeah,
is
like-
real.
One thing that I do know is that the soundtrack was not playing throughout the entirety of their autobiography because that soundtrack is the best,
Fire.
bro. Spirit in
Best
the Sky,
fire of all time.
Fortunate
That's where I
Son,
learned
Ain't No
along
Mountain High Enough.
Along Cool Woman. That's the first time I ever heard
Dude,
that
who
song.
sings it?
Amazing.
We'll go ahead and pick a different
Dude,
one.
you asked me
But
too
yeah,
quickly,
great
but I
song.
swear I know.
It's the one-hit wonder. Everybody always wants to say something.
Yeah, I was just about to say it. My wife is always calling me out. It's gonna go with what I just watched. You actually called it out, but again, I kind of had it in my back pocket in case Remember the Titans was a thing. It's the new one that's actually out on Netflix. Stop! It's the new one that's out on Netflix. It's called Alexander: The Making of a God. And let me tell you, this is one of the most original documentaries I feel like I've ever seen because they literally just remade Alexander the Great taking over Persia, right? They made the whole movie about it, and then basically just went back and got the historians to be put in and be like, okay, this is what's going on here. This is kind of like why, and I know it kind of sounds like, oh, I've seen that on the History Channel.
No,
you
they
haven't.
straight up did the biopic style. They basically, like you said, they filmed like when we were talking about the other day. They
Yeah.
filmed a movie, and then when they filmed the movie, they're like, all right, it's gonna cut from this scene to this scene. Well, it's gonna actually cut from the scene to historians talking about what's going to happen next versus what just
When you
happened.
Why they did
Yeah,
it,
so it's
what
like-
was going on
When
through
you
his
watch
both-
300,
Yeah.
are you sitting there being like, were they really this dope? Of course you are. 'cause
Exactly.
They're going off.
Yeah,
But
and
if you
it's
had
like-
a historian every 15 minutes to be like, okay,
And that's what I liked.
Yes.
And that's what I liked about it too, is because when you watch on the History Channel, you can tell that they talk to the historians, got their stories, and then just try and reenact what they said. To where this
well,
was
it's also they also want views.
right.
You know
But
what I
this,
mean?
what they did with this is they kept the historians coming in short and sweet, and they picked ones that were entertaining,
I think
not just sitting there being super dry and dull about it. They're kind of like us, like
They
dude,
got Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
They got the guy who's like alien.
and it's like,
You
and
know
it
what
was
I mean?
like,
Like-
and
doesn't
there are
like
times
aliens?
where there are times when you're watching 300 where you're like, why the hell are they doing this? Yes. So you're like, This is why.
When
Like,
you
right
see
when you
them
start-
go in and be like, "Oh, I'm getting into this 300 formation with these shields," bust in, and somebody be like, "No, they actually did that. This
Like,
is not a movie."
you'll be
thing."
like, why was Alexander the Great doing this? Like, why the hell is he doing this? And then it just as soon as you start thinking at it,
the
historian pops in
how
and goes,
old was
this
he when
is
he
why the
died?
hell
The
he was
number
doing
one
it.
way I can describe, and again, it's a movie, but it's Netflix, so they put it into parts. But I watched the whole thing in like 4 hours for it's like 6 episodes. But I think it's just for people that can, because they're all an hour a piece.
Yeah.
So like you can't just make that one sit down movie. But to describe what we're saying is, whenever Alexander the Great went to Egypt and became a pharaoh, he was like, well, yeah, cool. Like I'm a pharaoh, like out here, but I'm not spiritually like a pharaoh. So he went to like this. I guess it was like a tomb. He basically pulled an Aaron Rodgers. Went into a tomb, locked himself in it for like 2 or 3 days, and then came out and said, cool, now I'm a pharaoh now.
So you're telling me he locked himself into space, came out and said, hey, these are all my songs.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit more
Sounds
like Moose Miller.
to me. But and they kind of explain, why he did that, why he felt like he needed to do that, what could have been going on, what could have been there. And instead of like we're talking about with 300 where he just shows up, he does that, he leaves, you might not know like the importance of that specific place, why he went and did that. So that's why I picked that one.
How old was he when he died?
I don't know because they don't go to his death in
He
the
was
movie.
literally like 30.
Yeah, he wasn't very old.
He was so
well, I don't know
young
because
and
30 something back then though is old as
No,
shit.
not when you
isn't
were
it?
rich.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
That's
when
true.
you're
Now
rich,
when
you
you're
made
rich.
it.
But we are to our honorable mention, so I want to go to you first. What was your honorable mention?
So I had 2 of them. It was going to be the Biggie and Tupac. It was the story of how Biggie and Tupac actually were friends before.
Is that one on Netflix?
It was. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I was
still
going
is,
to say.
People forget
Biggie
that
used to
Tupac
open
is
up for
from
Tupac.
the East
Yeah.
Coast.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
from Baltimore.
He's the biggest West Coast person on the planet, but he's from the East. It was
Yeah.
always crazy.
Well, that's
to
the
me.
thing. So Biggie was opening up for him, and then they had beef. And as soon as they had beef, he went out west and was like, West Side.
And
Yeah.
now they're figuring out it's like, did they
Well,
have beef
yeah.
or was it Suge
What was
Knight?
your other one?
Last Chance U. I didn't want to use like the
Yeah.
the
Progressions
series.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I wanted to use just straight one-ofs. Not that I had a problem with it, but I was like, I'll just keep it in my back pocket.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not technically a 30 for 30, so I just didn't.
Yeah. Tony, did you have any?
I'll slide the Tupac and Tyson one actually.
Okay.
We talked about it earlier, but nobody picked it. It's so dope. So he's going to a Tyson or leaving a Tyson fight when he gets shot, but it goes into them meeting each other, why he was there, who was kind of there, what happened, and it's pretty sweet. More of because you even hear about Tupac in prison. Tyson in prison.
Yeah.
Like the relationship that they have, it's not about like, oh, let's learn about Tupac dying, which what you would think that's what it was, but it's a sports documentary. So it's more about Tyson and his relationship with it, and it's dope.
I actually had 3 honorable mentions. Definitely Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, loved that movie so
but
much.
I didn't feel like it was close enough.
Yeah, and 2, I'm gonna go with. Oh man, it just slipped.
Rocket Man.
No, it just slipped my brain. It was a 30 for 30. Oh no, so it was an SEC story. That's why I keep getting the Book of Mannings. One of the most amazing documentaries ever because,
Oh shit, yeah.
dude, one of the
Now I'm
biggest
thinking of
football
E60.
families of all time, and the fact that the best of all of them was like, hey, fuck Ole Miss, I'm going to Tennessee. You know what I mean? It just completely burned everybody. So I thought that was
allegedly
amazing.
the best of all of them was the brother that like had
That-
injury problems.
Yeah,
It
that
like-
wasn't even able to go
He
past
was a wide
high
receiver.
school.
He was a
Yeah.
wide receiver though.
So yeah, that one was definitely in there for me as well as, and I feel like those SEC stories, man, they kind of get
E60,
over
the Deshaun Jackson E60.
because
I'll bring
there's
that
another
back.
SEC story about who's the guy that went to Kentucky that ended up sucking. He got drafted over Jordan.
Sam Bowie.
Yeah.
Sam Bowie.
Yeah,
Bowie.
they had one on him. So
That was another early one I watched. Like I remember watching like the
I feel like SEC story was like what helped make 30 for 30, or it could have been the other way around.
well
I
30
don't
for
know.
30. The Sam Bowie one was a 30 for 30.
Was it 30 for 30? Okay, because I always just watched on the SEC network, but it makes sense because Kentucky. And all that
But
stuff.
E60 came out was pretty.
Yeah, but those
early
were
on.
like only like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Well, I
but
know they say E60, but like most of it was
I'm
them
pissed
sitting
I
at a
didn't put this
table.
one in. The Deshaun Jackson one's fire.
Oh,
His
yeah.
dad was having him. He said, "Do you want to be in the NFL?" He said, "Yes." He is literally like 4 years old, running 400 sprints.
I don't know how none
Yeah.
of us said Jordan rides the bus or
Yeah, but
Remember,
they're-
okay, this is why we're gonna have to
The
just do
last
this. We're gonna
dance,
have to
but-
just
That's
do
all-
this
they're
draft
all
again. We might
good.
have to do a draft on our favorite 30
they're all
for 30s.
good, but it's like
So that is gonna wrap it up for us. Did you have a 30 for 30 that you thought
no,
of,
he was
Derek?
giving us the signal.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure that I didn't.
Wait, no? Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
it was- I thought
okay,
so.
I thought it was.
Derek, what's yours?
I'm surprised no one mentioned The Last Dance.
I
Oh
just said
my
that. I was
God,
like,
how did nobody
after
say The
Jordan
Last
rides,
Dance?
After Jordan rides the bus, it was like or Last Dance. Like
Yeah.
those two were like.
2 other ones?
World War II and Collar. Just nothing but.
Yeah, that's cool because again, for so long, no one saw it in color.
Song, there's a whole
when you-
song
when you
about seeing it in
freeze,
color.
It looks way better in color.
And one more.
Tiger King.
Jesus Christ!
I was when I was talking about painkillers, I was thinking of the Tiger King guy, like with no teeth, but like.
Andy, did you have any that we didn't mention? I feel like yours was Fab Five, and I was like, I couldn't not pick that one, you know. But that is going to wrap it up for us today. Again, huge shout out to Moose Miller and Ben Hartsock, man. What an amazing electric time to have them on. Again, make sure March 9th, Creekside Occasions, that you're out there for our benefit concert. It's for a good cause. It's only $5 to get in.
Every
Single
penny.
penny is going to Addison Edgerton and her family. Make sure you follow her mom, Megan, on Twitter. That story, man, it touches your heart. And again, make sure you're hitting us up on our Patreon or on our Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook, letting us know what our punishment or our reward should be for our bracket fill out, and you could be in the league. So make sure you're following us. Guys, you got any last words as I'm losing my voice?
Best show ever.
All righty. Well, peace out, Girl Scouts, and we love you. Say something nice to somebody today.